Evening. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to call back to order the Select Board meeting for Monday, March 24th, 2025. We were in executive session, and we did take action to approve meeting minutes, but not release. Would you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have to do a little better job of being in sync. It was a little out of sync. Work on that next week, please. Any staff comments or announcements? Do we have? Hi, Emily. How are you?
How are you?
Excellent. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. Emily Mitchell, Town Clerk. Just for any folks who may be interested in running for elected office at our 2025 annual town election, that process begins with coming to our office to take out nomination papers, and that deadline is fast approaching. So I just wanted to remind folks this is your last meeting before that deadline. So the deadline to obtain nomination papers for any of the elected offices that appear on the 2025 annual town election ballot is this Friday, March 28th at 5 p.m. So our office is open that one extra hour until 5 p.m. for anyone interested in running. Just to give a quick reminder for the offices that have seats on the ballot, there are 2 seats for Select Board, 1 seat for Town Clerk, 1 seat for Monomoy Regional School Committee, 1 seat for Water Wastewater Commission, 2 seats on the Rooks Free Library Board of Trustees, 1 seat for the Housing Authority, and 9 seats for the Charter Commission. A couple weeks back, I did go on the Harwich channel to give what I'm calling a How to Run for Local Office 101. So if anyone wants to check out that video, it's there as a resource. Or if folks have questions, we certainly encourage them to get in touch with me or our team over the next couple days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other staff for public or staff comments and announcements? Hi, Kara.
Good evening, Kara Mawini, Director of Cultural Affairs, giving our next update for our April shows and exhibits that are coming up. We have our next art exhibit in the library, which is the Cape Cod Viewfinders Camera Club with the community gathering together. We have an opening reception planned for April 4th from 5 to 7 p.m. in the library, and the exhibit will be on view from April 1st to April 27th. We also have a call for artists for our new Plein Air Fest, which will premiere during Art Week. We are looking to create an immersive art experience showcasing local artists as they capture the charm and vibrancy of Harwich in real time. This interactive event invites the community to witness the artist process firsthand, culminating in a special market where attendees can engage with the artists and event attendees and be able to vote for their favorite painting and even purchase one the night of the event. Artists must register by April 15th. They can participate in the Plein Air Fest. They can visit hartwichculture.com, come on over to the office, find it on Facebook. It's been plastered everywhere as of today. And then lastly, Art Week of 2025, we have our kickoff celebrations. We have on April 30th, which is Expressive Art Free Workshop from 11 to 1 with artist Mitzi Bramble at the 204. We have the Sound Dunes. I always want to say the Sand Dunes, and I have to correct myself because it's the Sound Dunes performing a 90-minute performance on an evening at the 204, April 30th, starting at 6:30 p.m. We have a Spring Fling opening reception at the 204 on Friday, May 2nd from 5 to 8. We'll host our open studios on Saturday, May 3rd, and we encourage individuals and groups to join us by experiencing our cultural districts in town by visiting our local merchants, shops, and galleries. We will have a list of self-guided activities along with being out on the path. We're going to get into some conservation land and explore all things Harwich during Art Week. So we invite everyone to participate, and we'll have more information available online. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for staff comments and announcements? Hearing none, move to the public comments and weekly briefing. You want to give us the weekly briefing, Megan?
Of course.
Thank you.
Phase 3 sewer extension project is still underway. The construction will continue on Standish Woods this week, and then the crews should be moving over to Martha Eaton Court starting the beginning of next week. So we're moving right along.
Thank you very much. Now to public comment and announcements. Anybody from the public? Oh, we're gonna have a fight at the microphone here. John, you win, but it's, I mean.
My money's on Linda.
My money's on Linda, too.
Good evening. My name is John Chor in Bourne Road. I'd like to speak very briefly because I know you have a lot on your agenda tonight. And thank you, Jeff, for letting me speak.
Of course.
I've heard a lot on budgets sitting here quite often, separately on budgets, on school budget, capital budget, CPC budget, water, wastewater budgets. And this weekend I was wondering, if you totaled up all those budgets, what would they cost? So I did that. I worked up a small worksheet. I based the numbers that I'm going to be quoting tonight on what was printed in the warrant. It's presently this week's packet of warrant articles and budget articles, so the numbers are there. Those may change, I realize, but those are the numbers I work with. First, I added up the budgets and printed them in tonight's packets for approval at the 2025 town meeting. I have divided the budget.
Easy for you to say, John.
I have decided them into three different buckets of totals. The first bucket consists of 7 budgets: the operating budget, the Monomoy Regional School System, Cape Cod Tech, Water Department, Wastewater Department, capital items, and CPC items, for a total of $98,134,249. If you divide those by 365 days, you come up with a spending of $268,000 a day, every single day, 7 days a week. The second budget consists of 12 warrant articles with money requested for the town meeting approval. 2 of those articles, of the 12 articles, request money to come from stabilization funds for housing and wastewater. Those stabilization funds, as the board knows, have been set up to put money away to cover those 2 items. So when they do ask for money, we'll have money to pay for them. So even though they're not coming directly out of taxes this year, they are coming out of approval for town meeting. The total for those 12 budgets is $2,075,250 divided by 365 days. It's $5,685 per day. When you add those 2 numbers together, you come up with a total of $274,545 per day, 7 days a week, for a total of $100,209,499. The third bucket is debt exclusion for 3 warrant articles that need town meeting approval and ballot approval. The first one is the regional middle school repair of the middle school as published in the warrant. Now, I know there's bigger numbers, whatever, but in the warrant, it's for $6,918,000. The second one is for a pumper, fire engine, and 2 ambulances for $2,400,000. And I've been told the reason why we're going with such a high order of fire equipment, which I understand, is there's a back order of over 30 months to get this equipment, which is unbelievable to believe, but I believe it's true. And I'm not passing judgment on the validity of these numbers or the pros or cons, just stating the numbers. The third one is the Great Sand Lake Wastewater Project for $35 million. This warrant article has no loan forgiveness guarantees and no 0 to 2% interest guarantees that I know of. We hear about there might be forgiveness on the loan, the interest rates might be 0 to 2%, but I have not seen anything written form that's the case. I'd like to ask the board, not tonight, of course, but has anyone figured out what the interest payments will be on these 3 debt exclusions? Because if more money is involved than just paying the principal. As we all know, if you have a mortgage on your car or your house, you're paying interest plus the principal. And when is that debt going to hit? We've been talking about debt now, and Mark is very good about it. I mean, we have a lot of debt that's going to be coming down the road pretty quickly. We all got our tax bills in January. I think that was the first realization of debt hitting our taxes. Okay, so if you total these 3 buckets, and all is approved at town meeting, it has to be approved, of course, you get a total of $144,527,695. So $145 million that the townspeople will be asked to approve in 2 nights coming up in about a month. Those numbers were pretty shocking to me, but we do it every year. These big numbers aren't new, it's just that we talked in small budget numbers. I do realize that some of these budgets and warrant articles already have funding sources available to them, so it's not directly coming from the taxpayers directly, but they do come from the taxpayers ultimately. Like, as I mentioned in the stabilization funds, those are two funds set up that take money from the hotel receipts and put them in these two buckets of stabilization for housing and wastewater. The CPC funds, as we all know, come from a 3% tax on our property taxes, and it's held there. And also we hear talked a lot about is free cash. A lot of these articles will be funded with free cash. Well, as we all know, free cash is not free. And we also hear the term retained earnings for some of the items. Retained earnings is usually mentioned in regards to the wastewater and water coming from their funds. And those two funds are set up as enterprise funds. I'm not educating the board or anything but the public. So those two funds are a little bit different too. So thank you.
John, thank you very much. Linda?
I need to recover myself from all those numbers. They're huge, and I'm an accountant, CPA. Okay, Linda Sabula for the Traffic Safety Committee, and I'm just here to let the public know, and the Select Board, that the Cape Cod Commission is developing the Vision Zero Action Plan for Cape Cod through the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. It is an initiative that is designed to identify difficult and high incident intersections and areas, and what could possibly be done about them, suggestions. There are going to be 4 public hearings. One is, it's a virtual meeting on April 1st. On April 3rd, and April 2nd, it's going to be down in Wellfleet. April 3rd will be in Mashpee. April 3rd is in Mashpee. But April 3rd, Thursday morning at 11 a.m., they will hold an in-person public hearing at Brooks Free Library. So just want to let the public know that. Would it be, I don't know if it would be possible to get this flyer onto the website, Mamselle? And that's it, just to let people know that this is happening. The traffic safety members did attend a preliminary discussion on Harwich, dangerous intersections. There were some corrections that needed to be made, but this is for overall Cape, but I think it's a good idea. And if people have things to say and ideas, please attend one of these sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick, I know you want to speak. I'm going to hold off until the end for you, okay? We've got some other people here who are going to speak, but I'll find you soon. Hi, how are you?
How are we doing? Thank you to the board for hearing us out. Let me speak. I'm going to touch on a couple of...
If you don't mind, just state your name for the record.
My name is Chris Roberts.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm going to touch on a couple of things that I promise is going to be tied together.
Chris, you're a Harwich resident, correct?
I am a Harwich resident.
Thank you.
And I'm speaking here tonight on behalf of dozens of fellow parents of students affected by the ongoing mismanagement of the highly esteemed integrated preschool program at Harwich Elementary, which, for those unfamiliar, is a regionally recognized gem of early education and one of the most highly sought-after programs of its kind in this part of the state. Since November, numerous unethical actions have been taken by Student Services and Special Education Director Melissa McGuire, ostensibly to alleviate the Harwich Elementary School budget, although it has become undeniably clear that to many in the community that there is a deeper agenda to undermine and ultimately shutter the existing pre-K program in Harwich, effectively reallocating all current and future Harwich students to the Chatham facility with blatant disregard for the well-being of our 3- and 4-year-old children, especially those with disabilities, for our brilliant and highly coveted staff members who are being made to fear for their jobs, and for us working parents for the shrouded true cost of these changes to Harwich taxpayers. In late November, in a move that was in some aspects technically illegal, a definitive decision to dissolve the pre-K program in Harwich was enthusiastically announced by Melissa McGuire as a done deal, presumably to dissuade any discontented families from seeking recourse. In factuality, Ms. McGuire had not yet even presented this idea to the school committee. 2 subsequent committee meetings were inundated with parents speaking out against the move, and in January, Ms. McGuire's proposal was inevitably voted down. In the weeks following that vote, however, the program has been stripped down. The 4-year-old class effectively cut in half. 2.5 full-time staff positions within that program have been relinquished, and the projected enrollment numbers for the upcoming school year are down to half of the average enrollment for the last 4 years. These brazen actions, saddled with the unethical and misleading conduct during the enrollment process for the next year, displayed by Ms. McGuire and Team Chair Erin Cronin, who conveniently doubles as Team Chair for Chatham Elementary as well, have painted a very clear picture of a coordinated effort to intentionally diminish enrollment at Harwich in favor of bolstering enrollment at Chatham. Furthermore, if I were to speculate, this maneuver would serve as a dual purpose of galvanizing a stronger case for Ms. McGuire to reopen the proposal to move our kids to Chatham for the following 26-27 school year. While these may sound like extreme conclusions, there are dozens of us in contact with one another who have called and emailed the department repeatedly requesting clarification, transparency, and simple answers to direct questions regarding the welfare and education of our children, only to be met with continued deferment, evasion, intentional misinformation, and otherwise outright ignored. The overall flagrance, carelessness, and disrespect in the handling of these matters has left dozens of Harwich families feeling marginalized, angry, and without means of recourse toward a department of a regional school district that is expressing blatant favoritism towards one town at the expense of the other. And it is with that in mind that I humbly request of the Select Board that any current or future budgetary proposals regarding the Monomoy Regional School District be held to the highest ethical level of mitigation and accountability regarding the immediate and long-term effects on all students, especially our toddlers and students with special needs, on staff retention, and on Harwich taxpayers, with special attention paid to the aforementioned issues regarding the integrated pre-K program at Harwich Elementary this past school year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm Ann Frechette from East Harwich, the Great Sand Lakes Association. I'm here today to clear up some disinformation that has been spread about the Great Sand Lakes Sewer Extension Project, and specifically the impression that has been made about my neighbors being quote-unquote seasonal people who do not matter anyway. I'm here to tell you what our association has done for decades to keep our ponds clean, and there are some materials from our membership packets I have for you, which you're welcome to have, to illustrate what I have to say. Protect your ponds, protect your health, protecting our ponds now and for the future. I'm happy to disseminate these after the comments. So I'm here to tell you about my neighbors who matter. About Deb, who spends enormous amounts of time in all seasons of the year beautifying the plantings at the flagpole at the entrance to our community. And Christine and Donna, who plant the flowers at the other flagpole. Clinton, Dave, and Marion, all in their 70s, who brave poison ivy and cat briars up to their waists in pond weeds to pull invasive purple loosestrife from the ponds, with a permit from Amy Usowski, of course. About Patsy, George, Bob, and Dave, who for decades rode out onto the ponds to collect water samples for the PALS testing program, and Carol, John, Donna, and Scott, who've taken over that job. Tony, long-term president of our association, who mapped the bathymetry of the ponds, and these are maps I've seen in town reports, very useful. About Jim and Doug, who lead beach maintenance teams, removing trash, leaves, and abandoned boats. Dave, who now serves on boards for the town. Dave and now Christy, who measure the depth of the debris in the storm drains around the neighborhood to report to DPW when they need to be cleaned. Judy, who served on our board of directors for decades and continues to host the GSLA board meetings at her house. Born in the neighborhood, lives in the neighborhood, and in her 90s still continues to volunteer for the neighborhood. We have owners of local restaurants, owners of local construction companies, local real estate agents, teachers and staff in the local schools, including a former superintendent of Harwich from the 1980s and 1990s. We have local musicians and artists, theater professionals, people who work in wildlife rehabilitation, and environmental restoration specialists who work across the Cape. These are my neighbors, not the folks throwing $6 million birthday parties at Cape Cod resorts. My neighbors are people who care about the community, who care about our ponds, and who have worked for decades to maintain the ponds. They vote, and they matter. Instead of slandering them, I ask that you help them by placing the Great Sand Lakes Sewer Extension warrant article an article that the Town Finance Committee recently voted to support on the town meeting agenda today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
Sorry, I'm getting old. Hello, and I can't see that far. I gotta get used to these things. Todd Telesmanic, 55 Gilbert Lane, Harwich. I am here as a parent of twin 4.5-year-old children who are in the program at Harwich Elementary School right now. A couple weeks ago, I spoke at the school committee meeting. As I entered the school committee, I was quickly pulled aside by Scott Carpenter to address any questions I might have in lieu of speaking, but I was able to kind of work my way through and get some information. It was all brought to me that day of what's going on. The funding, I don't believe, is being utilized properly. Removing classes and teachers from Harwich Elementary School in the preschool level and separating it, so instead of having multiple classes throughout the day, having just one, moving them to Chatham, funding a bilingual preschool program in Chatham, that shouldn't be on us. That shouldn't be part of what we're doing. We need to focus on our students here in Harwich. The cutting the teachers to part-time, the combining the age groups from 3 to 5-year-olds. I have an autistic son, and if you put him in a room with a 5-year-old who is nonverbal or acting out, he's going to pick up on those actions, and he is going to regress in his development. We've seen it before. When you pull children out of the Harwich and move them to Chatham, having to explain to your child that, where's my friend? Where are my kids? Where's my friend? Why don't I see him in school? And the emotional setbacks that occurs onto the children, it's not fair. If you're a Harwich taxpayer and you have children in Harwich, they should be in the Harwich school system. They shouldn't be shipped over to Chatham. I understand that we're regionalized. We have a great thing going here in Harwich right now, and it doesn't need to be changed. If I may ask a question of Scott Carpenter, it's been brought to my attention that with the removal of the 3 classes, or the 3 teachers, that the YMCA will be taking over those classrooms?
Todd, you can ask, but he can't answer.
Oh, okay.
At public comment, we're all here to listen.
Okay, no problem.
Yep.
So it's been brought to my attention that the YMCA will be taking over 3 of the classrooms, and that grants will be given to the town of Harwich and the school system in order to offset the classrooms. And then, let's see, what else do I got? And then with the conversation of the director and the information given, it's been brought to my attention by Scott Carpenter that the only way that the determination of the number of children that are needed for the classrooms and the size of the classrooms is by early intervention. Early intervention gives the number of how many children are needed for the pre-K class, the developmental class. I went to the open house. There were 27 new families at that open house. There were 27 new people who are in this town, who have businesses in this town, who want to raise their children in this town and live in this town. And I think that's what we need to come back to, is back to Harwich, back to being who we are, back to being in this town for the whole time and just being active members of this town. And I think that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Patrick Otten, I see you, and I believe you want to make a public comment.
Yes, hello, Patrick Otten, East Harwich. Thank you, Select Board, and good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I want to second what Linda Sabula just said about the Cape Cod Vision Zero. You know, there are 3 traffic accidents per day on Cape Cod, and every 3 days there's a pedestrian accident on Cape Cod. And we need to keep in mind that as Harwich grows and wants to satisfy all the building needs that are in need, we need to also place firsthand the traffic problems. So please, everybody, this Thursday, April 3rd at 11 o'clock at the Brooks Free Library, please come to the in-person meeting with Cape Cod Commission and their project Vision Zero. Vision Zero meaning let's achieve no more accidents. And second, next week, Monday, on March 31st, Cape Cod Community Rowing is the start of the youth rowing season. The youth row between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's open to any youth from 12 years old to 18 in any school program. You just need to go to capecodcommunityrowing.org and register, and we'll see you on Monday. So please come and row with us. It's a tremendous sport. We'll have about 20 youth rowing this beginning of the season, and it's a lot of fun. You're on the water and taking care of yourself. So please, we'll see you then. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Great information.
Kathy Frazier, Clearwater Drive. I'm part of the Great Sand Lakes Association. What I brought with me today was a log from the Great Sand Lakes Association from 1962. I just thought this was interesting that way back when in 1962, part of the minutes talked about the subject of city water for Great Sand Lakes was discussed, and Mr. Freeman was asked to check with the water department on the present status of the matter. Mr. Moy advised that a warrant must be brought before town meeting to have water mains installed. Having town water will eliminate the danger of contamination from cesspools, including that from synthetic detergents. So we are not a new association. We have been around since the early 60s, fighting for our ponds, which we think are really a crown jewel of this town. And that's why we're fighting so hard to protect these ponds. I've lived in the neighborhood since the mid-'70s. My parents were on the board of directors for Great Sand Lakes. Some of the kids I ran around with now are homeowners in this community. We are a community of working class people who pay taxes and vote, and we really hope that we can at least be heard at town meeting, where, you know, we would love for you as a board to support this article, but we are really hoping that we will have the opportunity to speak and make our point and be heard. So, thank you.
Thank you. I see a Mr. David Swords online.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. This is Dave Swords. I am, along with my wife, a full-time resident on Clearwater Drive in East Harwich. I'm calling in simply to reiterate my support for the sewering project to help mitigate the problems that we are experiencing in the Great Sand Lakes and obviously in other parts of the town. My family has been homeowners for over 50 years, and we've seen over that period of time, particularly in the last 10 to 15 years, a serious degradation of the water quality. So I am simply hopeful that the board will agree with our feelings on this subject and support the article at town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Charles?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Charles Kuska, 6 T-Berry Ave, Harwich.
Good evening.
If I understand the process correctly, correct me if I don't, Mr. Chair, when the budget season started, the town departments, the Harwich town departments, were directed to develop their budgets surrounded around level service and no enhanced services for the future year. And if they did have some desire for enhanced services, to come forward and explain and defend those requests. I had an opportunity to view the presentations that they made to the boards for their enhanced requests. I thought they did a great job defending their proposals. I, as a one resident taxpayer, would be very supportive of their proposals. Just have a request if it's appropriate, and that is when the board gets to the point in the agenda tonight when you discuss the town departments as part of the warrant articles. If you could, for the benefit of the public, just if we could have a review of what those requests from the different departments, there were only 4 or 5 or 6 departments, I think, what those requests for enhanced services were, what their current status is in the budget process. Are they included in the budget that will be in the warrant? If not, why not? Is it strictly a financial matter, or was it just a feeling that it was not an appropriate request? So just some sense for the benefit of the public of where the board stands on those items.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening, Harwich Select Board. I'm Courtney Wittenstein, 22 Mary Beth Lane. I am here as a parent of 2 Monomoy students, and I'm here to encourage you to show support for the Monomoy school renovations budget to move forward. I was here a few months ago with a fellow parent and advocate, Steve Swain, to express our concerns over the air quality situation at the school. And I'm so grateful for the progress that has come out of that, including extensive mold testing. However, if we continue to let this building just sit waterlogged, we will begin to see more problems and it will not be safe. As a Harwich taxpayer, I completely understand the concern over the projected price and the current contract that Harwich holds with Chatham. However, also as a taxpayer, I would love to see what the amount comes out to a year. Is it $50 or $200 extra? Whatever the price may be, we are talking about the health and well-being of our children and teachers, which to me is absolutely priceless. I thank you for your previous support with getting things rolling for the testing, but tonight I urge you to support this for the town meeting warrant. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, public comment? Seeing none, let's move to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'd ask any member of the board if there's any particular item they'd like removed. Hearing none, I move to approve item A, designate Jennifer Harrington Municipal Animal Control Officer for 2025. Item B, approve the Select Board meeting minutes for March 10, 2025, and approve the resignation of Mark Martello from the Golf Committee effective immediately.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on any of the 3? I will just add that I'd like to say thank you to Mark for serving our town on the Golf Committee. He and I have worked closely over the last couple of years. He's been a true asset to the Golf Committee, so I just want to extend the board's thank you. So hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, Megan. All 3 of those. And now we will move to 2025 annual town meeting. Item A, draft 2025 annual town meeting warrant. Votes may be taken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Megan.
We have in your packet a spreadsheet that shows some highlighted article numbers. Those are the ones that you need to take action on. There are several that have not been placed, and then there are quite a few more that we need a vote either tonight or next week at the latest for your accept and adopt.
Thank you.
The first one is the town departmental budgets. That's Article 4.
Any board member want to speak up on Article 4?
Mr. Chair,
Please.
just find my spot in the packet. Page 55, local estimated receipts.
Thank you.
I did mention this to you earlier, and I have spoken to Eric Kinshirf, our interim finance director.
Sure.
Motor vehicle excise, local options, meals tax, and other excise, hotel and motel tax. The percentages make absolutely no sense to me whatsoever in how we can come up with these increases, so I have asked for information. It couldn't be provided before tonight's meeting. It will most likely be ready for next meeting. I'm not sure your intention on voting this budget tonight, but how we have a 12%, 25%, 75% increase in those three line items, given that we've already recognized in the actuals for the first 6 months, which was the busy season, I'd like to understand where the rest of that money's coming from. I did get a reasonable explanation for investment income, and I think it's more of a policy matter for the board, but that's got a 175% increase. I wish my broker made that money for me. But I have actually, yes. But I would like to see, I'd like to understand that, or have at least a memo created so the public understands that better, because just underestimating that does not seem responsible to me. So those are the items I take exception to in the operating budget.
Thank you, Mr. McCaskill. Any other board members on Article 4? Do we want to place and wait to accept and adopt?
Why don't we wait until Monday, when we're gonna have the revised, right? You said you were...
My only thought is, if we're gonna place this, it has a number attached to it right now. And if that number's, and we're also in union negotiations, so there may be some changes in those numbers. But if that number's gonna drastically change, I don't see the point in placing it with a number just to get it on the warrant.
Okay.
We're not gonna close it until next week.
So we'll hold off on Article 4 until next Monday.
Okay.
Next is Article 5. If I'm going in order, Megan.
Yes, Article 5 is the Monomoy Regional School District budget. You have I believe this is the most up-to-date article number with the estimated cost for the Harwich assessment at $31,451,157. I said that completely wrong.
What?
$31,451,157 for the Monomoy Regional School District budget. You do have Monomoy staff here if you wanted to take their presentation now.
That'd be great. Please, Scott and Michael.
Good evening.
I didn't hear any of that.
Nice to know.
Thank you both for being here.
Now you turn it up the volume. There's no button for volume.
Is there a button for mute, Matt? Thank you both for being here, and take it away.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we are going to be presenting the Monomoy Regional School District budget as it currently stands, as most recently voted by our school committee. So I understand there was discussion at the select board last week, and there's been correspondence between the boards, but there's not been an opportunity for any further action by the school committee since that. So we're going to present what we've got. I don't want you to. I hope you won't take that as a rebuff to your conversation. There's just not any changes have not been made since then.
Mr. Chair, if I could quickly,
Please. Yes, Steve.
and not that it's a problem, there was conversation between board members, not, this board was not conversing with the
Correspondence.
school
Yeah,
board.
it was
So
just
I think it was a
yes.
member of this board with a member of your school board, that's all.
Thank you. So,
Mr. Chair,
Michael.
and if I may, I'm trying to save you a little time maybe. Is there a reason why we're gonna go through the same budget presentation that we had? It seems to me to be more productive time spent going over what questions we may have. Clearly, I think the memo spoke for itself that the town administrator read before the school committee. This board has a problem with the size of the budget and its assessment. Do we need to hear the whole budget again?
Well, I thank you for your comments, and I would suggest if there's any changes to what we've seen prior, that this would be the perfect time to give us those changes. If not, I think instead of going through the same budget again, it'd probably be.
I mean, the changes have been very minor.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So there are changes that Michael could, talk about. So we had, when we first had the school committee vote on the budget, and then ultimately there's the budget that's been voted on. If the question is changes post the conversation that your select board had last Monday. I know that the letter that Julie wrote to the board indicated something like a 0.5% or a 1% cut. We still have to meet as a school, or the school committee still has to meet this week. They haven't had a chance to meet since your meeting to have sort of a conversation relative to at least a target that Julie had put out, but we also I don't know that Julie's target represents or reflects the board. So, I think there's some want on the committee's part to understand what that is to help inform their discussions this Thursday.
Well, thank you for that. And in an effort to, again, streamline this, I'll go to the board. If there's no change to the budget that's significant, substantial, 0.5% to 1% at least would be a good start. Maybe we could just have you back on Monday after everybody's had an opportunity to meet, and you can show us where you found some savings. And I'll turn it over to the board if they'd like to have any input. Pete?
No, I'll reiterate what I said last week. I'm not sitting here tonight looking to micromanage your budget and tell you where you should make cuts. I have my own thoughts and opinions. I'm sure you don't want me to be the person who makes those decisions, however. But the reality is we're faced with a tough budget season, and it doesn't look like, I think Selectman McCaskill made a great point last week. We don't sit here today in a financial crisis, right? Well, our job is to make sure we don't get there. And the last thing that we want to do is put ourselves in a situation where next year or the year after, we're telling you folks we can't even meet X, and therefore it requires a reduction in force. Those are the things we're trying to eliminate, the possibility of those things happening. And so since we're so close to the levy limit, since the budgets are so tight, we're not looking to put the entire onus on the school board, but we're asking for cooperation and participation to help the town of Harwich minimize the impact to the residents of Harwich and come in with a reasonable number that we can all agree upon and move forward and support a town meeting.
Any other board members? Michael?
Just to expand, and from a previous speaker when they talked about the capital project, and I'm hoping that we can, I know there's a meeting scheduled with the Harwich Select Board in Chatham, understanding what that's going to cost us and when. So Harwich's assessment's going to be, and when is that debt going to hit? And I would agree, there's nothing better than having a safe, comfortable, clean environment for our students and our teachers, and I've certainly supported that for the last 10 years. It's a big number, on top of another big number that's being asked on a wastewater project, on top of, well, I think John Shorey spelled it out tonight, $145 million ask. Some of that money already exists, but we can't keep every year bringing in these percentages, which to Harwich equals 1.65 million on its operating budget. We cannot continue to do this without ultimately ending up at an override at town meeting, and we also saw how 2005 went with an override. So we are not in a fiscal crisis, but we're quickly getting there. We're quickly getting to the point where we can't afford some things, and I think Select Board Member Handler, and he could articulate what he said, but looking at the support and looking at the administrative costs would be, for me, a worthwhile exercise, and not looking at cutting our programs. Tonight there was some interesting comments at public comment announcement, and we've seen many, many emails related to the universal pre-K. And I would ask that when you come back, and hopefully we can get that agended properly, because tonight it's not, so we can get an explanation. Taxpayer resident Ryan Edwards sent us all emails today, and it was all of the emails that he had sent to the school with the answers. Many of those questions were related to budget, and the why we're only, YMC, why we're only getting 26% in the town of Harwich, but hosting that program is one of the questions, and I'd rather not get into reading his email tonight, but I would ask the chair to have it in the packet for next week for the conversation. Many of the things that have been mentioned tonight and mentioned in the emails are related to budget and changes in our school system. So I would only ask, and to Pete's point, I don't want to do your budget for you. We're doing enough of our own. but we simply can't afford it. And it was mentioned by one of the proponents of the school budget that often speaks in public, that I was wrong when I misspoke about you stating many, many years that this will level out, you, Dr. Carpenter, this will level out, the increases won't be as high once we get to this point. The Select Board member Howell, I'm sure, can remember how many years that we were on the fence on the budget and asked for the proverbial sharpening of the pencil. It just hasn't happened. And I'm stating now tonight that I can't support the budget as written because we've got 8 unions in negotiation right now, and everybody wants something. And year after year, we're telling our unions and our employees, there's nothing we can do for you. This is the highest we can go. But year after year, we approve the school budget at a very high percentage in comparison. So I would ask you to look at every line, but not the instructional, not the teachers.
Julie?
Thank you for coming tonight, and, you referenced the email that I had, the chair read for me last week, and as I said, I wrote that because I was not in attendance on Monday night, but also because we chose to send a letter, and to me, the spirit of that letter is about the discussions that are gonna happen, I believe, early April.
April 8th.
Right. So I feel like at this point, without looking at union obligations and looking at student needs, trying to figure out a way that there's some sort of, good faith sent to Harwich to try to figure out what can wait, and understanding the importance of the school, the middle school project. And to me, that's a vital project that has to go forward, and certainly the number is staggering. But the health and welfare of students and teachers is extremely important and can't be denied. But I would also ask that when you do come back to the previous speaker at public comment, that you can give us a breakdown on understanding what exactly is going on in the integrated pre-K program, so that we understand what changes are happening, why they're happening, and any impact on cost. So again, my feeling is, these discussions are sort of late to the table, but whatever we can do to talk amongst ourselves, with the school committee, with you guys, to try to figure out a way that we can at least figure some kind of reduction, if possible. Obviously, the audience needs to understand that we don't control your budget. We support it or we don't support it, but you decide your budget, so, thanks.
Thank you, Julie. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Building off, you've listened to the meeting, I assume, and building off what Select Board Member McCaskill just said tonight, every year, even before you were here, I've asked, what's the relationship of the budget in terms of who's in front of a kid standing in a classroom teaching them, as opposed to what component of the budget is what I would consider to be overhead. Last week, the chair went into a discussion about the proportions. I mean, it was frightening to actually get to the point where it was almost 1-to-1. Maybe we're wrong. I mean, maybe we need to be redirected in that discussion. But nonetheless, that's my focus. I've sent a whole bunch of kids through both Harwich and now Monomoy, and that's my major concern. I think that's every parent's major concern. What value is my kid getting out of a classroom with somebody standing in front of them or somebody intervening at the desk? You'll forgive me, but I don't really care about what goes on in the central office, as long as your reports get filed and everything. So I'm a little concerned, a little more than concerned about that trend. And I add that to what Mr. Piekarski was able to find in terms of our age-old favorite comment about sources and uses. Sources are basically the bucks coming in, uses are how you're spending them. One thing you have to be really careful about in a budget is not using one-time or short-term money and predicating everything that you're doing in the future on something that you know is going to go away in a year or two. And there appears to be a bunch of that in this budget, which would make next year that much worse for us. And by our own projections in terms of, because we've been talking to our unions about this, by our own projections, next year is going to be tougher for us as a town than this year is. And I've said this in the negotiations, and I will repeat it for the public. If you're standing in the middle of Harwich Port in July, are you going to tell me that you can see serious room for growth in either rooms taxes or meals taxes? We're basically like flat out right now. I don't see that there's a trajectory on a float, on any kind of chart that's going to show me that we're going to continue to vector upwards in those receipts. As a matter of fact, if we get into a recession, it's pretty likely that that's not going to even be sustainable at the current level. So with that in mind, I don't see that this is a sustainable budget proposal. And as I said last week, and I'll repeat it now that you're here, in the past, I think you've mistaken that I've articulated stuff, that it was just me. There's a real concern amongst all the members of this board about how we're going to be able to afford that and do all of the other things that are really necessary, because when the kids come home, they need clean water. They need services that we give. They need to have the security of knowing if they dial 911, somebody's going to show up and they're going to be fully staffed. We're having an increasingly tough time doing that within the context of both the formula and this budget. And Michael's right, the other Michael, that through the years, we've had the discussion about this plateauing somehow, that we'd start going in parallel with the growth of the town budget. So if it was like 3, 4, 5%, that's one thing, but it hasn't done that. So somewhere or another, we're going to have to reach some sort of consensus. I know that there's a formula problem. That's another story entirely. But in terms of this, I mean, just what you represent in relation to all services that are delivered to people who live in Harwich, compared to what the percentage of your budget was when it was just the Harwich school system in there, has gone up. And I don't mean percentage last year to the next year to the year after. I mean what you represent relative to what we spend to run the entire town government. It's a much larger percentage now. And I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, unless, of course, it's a train heading right at me.
School bus.
We don't want that there.
Neither do I.
Okay, my thoughts, and I'm making a list here as I went, all good points by my colleagues. I'll start with, and probably end with, the same sentence. This regional agreement is putting so much compression on every single aspect of our town's budget and our taxpayers' wallets, that for me, that is without question the biggest driver here. And I don't see relief coming down in the next several years. I see Chatham's enrollment going down. I see Harwich's enrollment at least staying the same or going up. That translates into more dollars being spent by our taxpayers and less dollars being spent by their taxpayers. I understand it's an agreement. I'm in many of them myself in my own private life. But this is a mutually shared problem by two neighboring towns. And I'm hopeful that through the next several months of discussions, nothing's going to happen between now and town meeting. We all understand that. But through the next several months of discussions between Chatham and Harwich, I hope they're honest and I hope they're thoughtful. And I hope there can be some relief to the town of Harwich. I'll probably end with that exact same sentence. It'll just be a lot shorter. I do want to state publicly that I really respect and really want to thank Tina Games for giving me a phone call. We've spoken multiple times, and I said to her clearly and simply that if we did better with communication, we might not be here right now. And that goes for all of us, not just the committee, not just you all, not just the select board, and not just the public. More communication is the only way this community is going to fix this issue that we have. That's number two. Number three is, in my opinion, the optimistic side of me, says that you all, the school committee, has voted the ceiling. The budget will not go up. That number of whatever it is, 31 million, please don't read it, Michael, it only makes me upset. So 31 million plus, that's the ceiling. It's only going to come down between now and town meeting. It's not going to go up, so the ceiling's set. It can only come down. And again, I hope there's thoughtful and honest deliberation, discussion, and cooperation to move that needle down, even a percent. It'd be a great place to start. We have a top-notch system. We are the envy of many schools in this state. We have class sizes that are incredible. We have a teaching staff that is second to none. Select Board Member McCaskill talks constantly about being the employer of choice. We all want that. This regional agreement prevents that. We only have so much money to go around. This board member does not want to see both of you, nor your committee come back and suggest any cuts to the front line, to the people who are providing the incredible service to our kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, God bless me. And they come home, they're happy, they're smiling, they have great days at school. It is not, at least this board member's intention, to sit and listen to, well, we're gonna clean out three frontline teachers and two assistant teachers. That is not where I want to see cuts. I'll let my colleagues, if they want to chime back in, speak up for what they think. Now I have a few questions, if I may. The first question is that, Michael, you got back to me like that, and there's urgency at this point, right? And I really, really appreciate you within 6 hours getting me the numbers I wanted on both occasions. So I give you a lot of credit for that, because I know you're busy, and I appreciate it. The first question I have is on those numbers, to Select Board Member Howell's comments. I believe, and I'm going by memory here, you probably are staring at them right now, but it was about 212 non-instructional and 176 instructional. But to Select Board Member Howell's point, can you break that down a little bit more for me so that I can understand what those 200 plus, are there any of those who are in front of our kids molding and sculpting and dealing with them and helping them get through school?
So, I think before I will answer that question, before I do that, I would just like to say that, first of all, while we recognize the financial imperative to look at the budget, and obviously that's a question for the school committee, but it's something we'll take away. I just have to be clear that there isn't a dime spent in the budget that doesn't impact students. There isn't a dime. Everything impacts students. That's why they're there. That's why we're there. That's what we're doing. Central office, payroll. Do you know who payroll's paying? Teachers in front of students. That's not to say you can't make reductions and you can't make savings. That absolutely is something we'll look at. But it will impact what happens in classrooms. That might be an impact that you can live with. That might be fine and might not be draconian, but it will impact what happens to students. Everything, because otherwise we wouldn't be doing our job. Because we wouldn't be putting a budget together that doesn't support students. That's what we're here for. That's what we're doing. That's what these numbers do. We wouldn't propose anything that didn't improve the well-being of students in the classrooms. There's lots of ways to do it. I'm not saying you can't do it cheaper, but it is. Anyway, I've said it. So I don't have the exact numbers. They're here somewhere, but the exact numbers. But what those people like. So this is why I lead into your question. Those people are instructional assistants in the classrooms, supporting students. They are counsellors supporting students from their course selections to social emotional support. They are cafeteria staff and custodians cleaning up after students and providing them lunches. So we now have more and more students getting lunches. That means you need more cafeteria staff. They are, a wide range of staff supporting students. There are, I mean, yes, we have staff in central office paying bills and paying payroll and doing HR, but I don't know how you run an organisation without those functions. And I think things, so, and the number of, you know, what you're referring to as sort of frontline teachers as a proportion has changed since, I think the date you gave was 1950. A lot's changed since 1950. You know, the percentage of students that graduated in 1950 was like in the 30%. It's now in upper 90%. Special education students were not taught in 1950. They were institutionalized. Those are now students in our classrooms receiving a high quality education. That's changed. The makeup of our workforce has changed. And therefore the makeup of our workforce, partly because the workforce our students are going into, that's changed as well. You know, there's a large proportion of students in 1950 were expected to go and work in factories or farms. That's not the case anymore. So we don't need the workforce we had in 1950. We need a workforce that meets the needs of all of the students to equip them to work in the workforce. That's what this staff does. That's what this workforce does every day. And that's why it's the shape it is. It's changed. Absolutely, it's changed. We're always trying to make it as efficient and as effective as possible, but it's always serving the students.
Thank you. Unfilled positions.
Yeah, so they are, yes.
From last year, or 2 years ago to last year, and then going into the next fiscal year. Do you have unfilled positions that you've budgeted for?
You mean like we were just all year not able to fill them?
Well, like we have a town engineer vacancy, but we budget for it. So the money's there.
No, I mean, we have certain staff that are hired to, like certain disciplines that are hired to fill, like Spanish language. And we have to get creative about how we fill some of those positions.
I'm just asking if there's money that hadn't been spent because you have vacancies.
No.
No, okay.
No.
Okay. Talk to me about the restorative justice coordinator. Is that a new position this year or last year?
That was added in this year's budget, yes.
That was added in this year's budget.
It was added last year.
Last year.
Yes, thank you.
So
Sorry, yeah, it's not in the
this is the first year
FY26 budget.
for the position
So it just started,
Yeah.
this year.
and that's going to be moving forward to next year.
Yeah, there was a presentation a couple of school committee meetings ago that really shows how this position is really helping decrease the number of referrals to the office, keeping more kids in class, not out of class, helping us keep our suspension rates down. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to make sure kids are in school learning, not sitting at home. So it has been beneficial. It was one of the school committee's goals was to go and support a restorative justice approach at the high school and at the middle school.
Yeah, doing a little bit of research on that, it seems like it's an incredible asset to the school. I was just wondering where it fit into the budget.
Yeah, there's also it also is addressing a bit of what we could almost call unfunded mandates coming from top down. So the state really created a situation where schools aren't really allowed to suspend anymore. I mean, you have to jump through hoops. I'm not saying suspension's a great thing either, but you need to come, I think school districts are really needing to go and think proactively. It's like, okay, if you're not suspending, what are you doing to make sure that amends are made for wrongs done and that you're redirecting the behavior so that hopefully it doesn't happen again? And I think we came out at Monomoy sort of ahead of the curve on looking at a restorative justice approach and, put this in place, I think, before many school districts have.
Okay.
I should just add, so the restorative justice position is one position that's funded using our school choice funds. That's one of the items we use to offset our budget.
That was my next question, is how do you fund it? Through using
through
school choice.
So
Okay.
so.
I have a few more, but I'll go to, if the board's got anything else Julie?
Well, one thing I want to just, and I'm stating this for the public as well, but it's something that you all had said to us in the last couple of years as we talked about our housing crisis. And that's just another piece of this puzzle that we've seen as the budget goes up. I recall you telling us that the professionals that you're hiring are people who are more advanced in their careers because they're the people who have housing or can afford housing down here. So we can't forget the fact that the same way our own kids can't stay here and work here, they can't get teachers at a, I'll say it, cheaper rate because there's nowhere for these people to live. So once again, I'm just adding on to the complexity of the issue that Harwich faces, but that the whole school district faces, and we're not alone in that. That's across the Cape. So again, we look at inflation, we look at these types of Cape problems, and then another problem where the state hands down more directives, and we're looking at seasonal communities. We don't have a description on that. We're looking at increasing ADUs, but then we all work together to try to make that better. And now I feel like we're going backwards. I mean, I think the intention is to create housing to alleviate the problem, but we're a seasonal community, so those ADUs that might help other communities may not help us. So I'm only just stating this because this issue, as we talk about numbers and compress numbers and add numbers and divide them and by days and whatever, we're forgetting about some of the complexities that fit into all of our budgets, including our own. We can't fill positions because we can't get people to fill them because they can't live here. And then we have to hire people at a higher rate to get people to fill these jobs. So I'm just stating the obvious to remind everybody that it's not just that we're not implying that you're misspending. There are a lot of different pieces that go into all of our budgets and the difficulties that we've been facing, and they just keep getting worse. So.
I think if I could.
Please.
If I could sort of
absolutely,
go back
Scott.
to a question that you had asked about, do we have unfilled positions? If we go back to just before we renegotiated the contract, instructional assistants are some of our lowest paid employees. We were struggling to keep enough instructional assistants. So, so while we didn't have, a position that just was unfilled for the year, we had instructional assistant positions that always seemed to be open. We went into the contract negotiations wanting to make sure that we had a COLA appropriate to go have people choose Monomoy over, let's say, Stop and Shop or wherever, so that we could get people in the building who could go and support the kids, because a number of these instructional assistants, as Michael referred to, we have a lot of them, but they're required in special education plans to have that support, there. What we found after the increases with the this latest contract, we are able to go and at least have those positions filled this year, which is sort of the first since before COVID, where we've always been trying, chasing around. It's like, okay, there's, a position that's open, we fill it, somebody leaves, there's another position open. It was just really tough, but we're at a good place at the moment where we're able to go and fill the positions we have and address the needs that we have for the kids.
Thank you. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer something of a little bit of a counterpoint to what the previous speakers said. First of all, I don't really want to get into telling you how to design your school system because I'm not an expert in that and it's not my job. I will point out that metaphorically, there's some similarities between what you're being asked to do right now and raising a family or running the general government. I mean, I love my kids. I would wish to give them every advantage and everything they could possibly ever want. But the reality is I've got X number of dollars to be able to deploy, and where is that going to be most effective in raising the family that I want to see raised? Likewise, in this government, it's nice to talk about the housing crisis and all this other stuff, but the reality is we have a pot of money that we have to be able to spend, and we have to, I'm sure that people would get a little bit more than slightly upset if they dialed 911 and no one ever showed up. So all everything's important. The question is, can you find something that's more important than something else so that we can tough this thing out and get past where we're at? And again, I'm not going to tell you that the English teacher's worth a lot more to me than a Latin teacher is, or that the cafeteria worker doesn't matter. I get all of that, but the design of the whole thing has to operate within the context of a budget, which none of us can change. We're not going to get a color copier and start printing more dollar bills out of it. So we have what we have, and we also have some projections about what that looks like in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they're not matching up well. And we haven't seen much let up, and we've got really big problems of our own retaining employees, especially public safety. They have to be in proximity. We can't do a call back with the fire department unless somebody lives near enough to be able to call them back. So where they live matters to them. And if it's not affordable, it's a discussion to have parallel to this, but we have what we have. And so it isn't pejorative. It's not to make you feel bad. And certainly, I don't think anybody on this board, I know Pete particularly, is against telling you how to run what you run, but you're the only one who knows what each element costs and what in your mind that you need, or else nothing else matters. And then you start building until you run out of money with that. And that's the only suggestion I have, is that we need a serious discussion about, we are where we're at, we only have the money we have, and anything that you folks bill, just so everybody out in TV land understands this, you send a bill. It's a top-line budget bill. We don't get to deliberate over that. So whatever is left after we pay your bill is what we get to run the town on. It's not like a negotiation where it's holistic and everybody's in this thing together. So we're finding it difficult downstream to be able to piece together what we need to piece together in order to be able to run the town. And that's really what this is all about. It's not about us disliking your actions or feeling that you're not running the school right. I just hope you understand that.
Thank you. I'd just respond and say thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I would say that, that the Select Board has supported the schools, and we recognise that. And, we recognise the support that...
Is that it for you?
Yeah,
we done?
I'm done.
You've had it.
Click her down. I'm out here.
Just took down hundreds of people.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. And I do agree, and that's what we're often looking at, is what's our return on investment. So what's the educational return on the amount we're spending, and trying to make sure we're always getting the highest bang for a buck. And I realise that, we are drawing the line here, and you're saying, well, maybe you need to be drawing it somewhere lower, and I appreciate that.
Well, our return on investment is every class, every kid.
Yeah.
Every graduating class. That is this town's return on investment. You've done a hell of a job with that. How about any other board members?
Real quickly, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
And I don't want to keep going over the same topics, but first of all, I'd be happy to do your budget. I just don't think you folks would want me doing it.
We definitely agree on that.
Right, so I'm glad we can agree there. And a couple points that I just jotted down with the conversation. As far as those new employees, I'm happy to hear that you're finding them, and that's our whole purpose here, is we want to make sure you can retain them. And that's why we're sitting here tonight having this conversation. The other ask I have, historically, the town administrator presents to us and to the town meeting 4 categories related to your district budget. And I know you presented to us in your presentation categories, but there were much greater than 4. So if you could work with our town administrator over the next week or so after your committee meets and break it down into the 4 categories, which are operating, capital, transportation, and debt. So that way we can have a clear picture when we look at it next.
Yep.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I've got that here, and I can give that to...
Beautiful, I appreciate that. And the only other thing, Mr. Chair, is I'm not sure if there's any members of the school board that are in attendance who may want to speak to us tonight or make a statement to the public tonight.
I'll give them the option, absolutely. Michael, anything more from you? Julie?
No, good, thank you.
Okay, anybody from the school committee would like to speak or ask any questions? Sure. Mic is yours.
Good evening, Meredith Henderson, Monomoy School Committee. I just wanted to be here. I apologize for not being here last week, to listen to your questions and to hear your concerns. We did have I'm the chair of the Finance Subcommittee. So we did have a meeting on Friday afternoon to kind of think about ways that we could come together on both boards. Because of the way the process works, we can't change the budget without bringing it to our full board. So we are having another finance subcommittee meeting on Thursday before our full board meeting to hopefully come to some possible changes that we can bring to the full board that we can bring back to you. So although I wish this conversation had started a little bit earlier than now, and hopefully I will make sure that that happens next year as a Harwich resident, but at least we're having it now, and we'll come back to you hopefully next week with some more information.
Let me make a point, if you don't mind, to the point you just made. It is clear to me that this should be a monthly, ongoing process between the school committee and the select board for both towns.
Absolutely.
This is way too compressed, in my opinion, to try to get all the questions answered. I mean, this is absolutely critical and important. And to try to do it in 3 meetings or 4 meetings, and then phone calls, and you guys in here, and we're trying to throw all kinds of questions at, it's suboptimal by any standard or measure in my mind. And there's no reason we can't have you all here once a month for 15 or 20 minutes, and it will save us an awful lot of this kind of stuff
That'd be great.
going forward. So,
Mr. Chair, if I could just
yeah,
briefly,
please.
and not to run this thing down a road, but the only comment I'll make is it was either somewhere between 6 or 8 weeks ago when I believe it was both gentlemen sitting in front of us tonight, where I did ask to at least consider sharpening the pencils. So
Correct.
This didn't come up 2 weeks ago. This was a conversation that did occur. I didn't know where that was going to go, so I didn't, continue to beat the drum. I was hopeful that the message got back to the school board and the pencil was being sharpened. So it isn't a brand-new conversation, but even 2 months ago probably isn't long enough for this to, really transpire and become what we need it to be.
Right.
Thank you, Pete. Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you, Mary. Have a great day. Anything from the board? No? Okay, so we'll have you back on Monday?
What do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Do we have their other items?
Well, that's, we can,
Sure.
while they're here.
The next
sitting
one
there.
is the middle school project. It's Article 9. And you have in your packet the updated Article 9, which is for $9,007,030, debt authorized by the Monomoy Regional School District to pay additional costs of renovating and reconstructing the siding and windows of the Monomoy Regional Middle School, including all other work incidental and related thereto. The explanation is that the town of Harwich's obligation for this borrowing is $6,918,300 based on a 3-year average of foundation enrollment. And this will require a ballot question for debt exclusion.
Thank you, Megan. Anything you want to speak to on that?
Sure, can I say a few words?
Absolutely.
So, just if you'll give me a few moments. So the total project cost right now, as our budget for this project, is $11,507,030. So the request to hear, so we were previously approved for $2.5 million. So the request is for the district to approval for the additional amount of $9,007,030. So that will take the total approval to that $11,507,030. So that's where that $9 million comes from.
Thank you.
So I just also wanted to be clear what the purpose of this vote is. So this vote is really for the select board and ultimately the town meetings and the ballot to approve the district to go and incur that debt. So it's not deciding how the debt will be assessed. It's not deciding how much the town will pay. It's not giving us, it's not guaranteeing the loan, all that. All it does, and that's why the reference is often to the full amount, all you're doing is giving the district the approval to incur the debt. So the actual assessment where you pay for it is in the budget. So there's already an amount in the budget for $300,000 for the first part of beginning to pay that debt back. So each year, as part of the town's assessment, there's a debt piece. and that's our payment on principal and interest on any debt we have, and that's assessed to the towns based on a 3-year average foundation enrollment, and so that changes every year. So each year, we put together what our payments are for that year, that's our debt payments, and they're assessed to the towns at whatever that foundation enrollment number is at that time. So to one of the points earlier, so when you're review, if you approve this article, that doesn't necessarily affect the amount of money that the town is assessed, because that's already in the budget. Does that make sense?
For that 11 million, that 300,000
Yeah,
represents.
So it's already in its budget and assessed to the two towns. Now, it won't always be $300,000. The payments will increase as we go through the debt profile once we actually go out and borrow the funds and depending on interest and the number of years we spread it out over, that will impact the total amount that's assessed to each town every year. But at the same time, we know the high school debt is on a slightly declining debt payment each year, so that will offset the increase in debt that this project represents. So I just wanted to be clear about the purpose of this vote and then how that it's then assessed to the towns. Let's see. I just also would you like me to explain why it's 11 million now and not 6.3? That was when we last presented to you, it was 6.3 million. It is now 11.5.
That's all in the packet, if I'm not mistaken. So
I like it.
Does the board have the appetite to have him go through that?
I do think we could just give a quick synopsis that I think addresses a concern that you had when we were there talking about the 6.3. And I know that and I appreciate the time that you took to go walk around the building with Michael and I months ago when it was warmer.
It was a little warmer then. You're right.
So the project then at 6.3 was purely a siding project. When we started working with the architects and their engineers, the engineers really saw an issue that we need to go pull out the windows, fix around the windows, redo the flashing, and so the conversations that happened at the building committee level, and we do have 4 members of the building committee here. We've got Ed McManus, who's one of the co-chairs, Meredith Henderson on the school committee is also on the building committee, Craig Gabri, and we also have Mark Kelleher. I think that is all of them. They're in the room. The building committee felt that in order to do the project right, we rather than take out essentially 30-year-old windows and try to get them back in without damaging the windows, that it would make more sense to fix the openings and put better energy efficient windows back in place. So the project is a siding. It's new windows. It's window sills. It's the window whatever window treatments those windows would need on the inside. But it's a siding and window project, not just the siding project that we initially brought. There's been a lot of studies. I know the concern you had is talking about the construction that you had at your house. It's like once you go into a wall, what's it going to look like? They have gone through with engineers and used infrared cameras, and they bored through the drywall. There's no evidence that the moisture has made it to the drywall side of the wall. It seems to be sort of confined for the moment, knock on wood, to the plywood sheathing under it. In some cases will need to get replaced. So there's a very healthy contingency that's built into the number that Michael has brought to you that will go not have the unknowns. It's there to cover those unknowns, but to get the siding, whatever sheeting needs to get done, and the windows in to at least get the wall window area of the building. We've also been accepted into the accelerator repairs project with the intent of a year from now coming back for the roof project and to go to town meeting for the roof. We haven't started.
Can't wait.
Yeah, we haven't started work on it.
Thanks.
I think there's been a rough estimate that a roof project would be about $8.5 million. of which the state would reimburse. The state reimburses for roofs. So I think that 8.5 split between the towns is going to be more like a 5.3. So a big number split between the towns, but together, that's still a fraction of what they estimate that building, if you were to kind of level it and rebuild it, is more like a $150 million project that you're looking at.
Okay. Thank you. Board? Julie?
When you came to tell us about how things were being reassessed, you also talked about sort of a drainage issue that you were going to be looking at and some wet areas. Has that already been assessed and included if there's anything? Yeah.
So we have done, so there's been a lot of work to just improve air quality and reduce damp and reduce, reduce the likely risk of water getting into the building wherever we can. We did add some drainage away from the buildings, so where there used to be puddles, there's not so much anymore.
So that's all included in the number?
That's already, a lot of that's already been done.
Oh, great.
Where it was, not excessive amount of cost, and we were able to do it quickly. We've proceeded.
Thank you.
Don? Nothing? Pete?
Just a couple quick things. And do you, I think I requested at one of the last meetings, do you have a debt schedule that you can share with us?
I do, yes. I can send it to you.
Shoot that to the town administrator, that'd be great.
Yep.
And as far as, you're stating that 300,000 is currently in your proposed budget, which I can appreciate. However, a couple things to your point. That's the early low number. That number's going to increase. And if the formula stays the same, which again isn't part of this article, but if the formula stays the same, then the town of Harwich is paying, a significant nut of that, $11 million. And going to town meeting and being able to inform them that we'd be responsible for $5.5 million as opposed to $8.5 million of the, $11 million project, changes some attitudes on town meeting floor as far as approval or denial of this project. So, I understand where you're coming from with the 300,000 that's currently in your budget and how the assessments break down, but it's more to that. It's bigger than that to some of us and how it all plays out, for town approval.
Yes, 100%.
Michael?
And just to expand on Pete Pekarski's last comment, the 300,000, is there a projection of where that's going to go over the next 10 or 12 years? Do you project out?
Yes. So, but what I say, let me find out and put all those numbers together and send them to you so that you can see them all.
Okay. And in the last capital presentation you gave us, was the $11 million number in there or the lower number in there?
So the last time we presented it was this 6.3 million, because that's what we got into the discussion.
So those two things for me, looking at the updated capital, is going to make a big difference on support or not support.
Yeah.
I know we have to get there, but also the meeting that's about to take place to kind of gauge where Chatham Select Board's position's going to be based on 50-50 split maybe instead of 76-24. So that conversation this week, which you're not part of, I don't think, is going to be I want that information before I vote.
Okay.
So for me, my thoughts, obviously, when we take on debt, it's debt. We can't do anything with that. There's no wiggle room. There's no way to reduce. There's no way to massage it. So I want the public to understand that when they vote, that we're authorizing the debt, and there's no movement there. Just out of curiosity, waiting for the roof, I was under the impression through reading some report that the roof was is compromised.
So
is that?
So the roof, well,
I'd hate to do the siding and wait a year.
Well, I think the challenge, the challenge is the roof has there are sections of the roof that are 35 years old, and there are sections of the roof, that if you were to get close to the building and look up, a lot of the shingles are really, you can kind of see are on their last leg. There are sections of the roof that are 35 years old that are flat membrane sections. Mm-hmm. I think the roof, the way I would sort of describe it is there are fewer holes that we're having to chase in the roof to go and keep water from infiltrating compared to the number of holes in the side. And we generally, on a rain like today, don't have issues with water infiltrating. But if it's one of those coastal storms with windswept rain, it really depends which direction it comes to whether or not we have some sort of leak that happens on the roof. So we had initially been looking at the roof as the first project, and then it became clear that we needed to leap the siding project forward in order to go and address what was really the biggest source of moisture in the building. And then the way the MSBA project works out is that just we're accepted into a program that we'll be able to bring forward a year from now, not in time for this, for this town meeting.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Sorry,
Yes,
just a
Michael.
quick question.
Yeah, of course.
And I recognize it probably rings hollow, but although you were saying there's no movement on that debt, I mean, our aim is to keep the cost as low as possible. So while we are requesting 11.5, that's, like you said, it's the max. And we're hoping and working with our designer and our project manager to bring the final amount, how we procure it and all that stuff to keep the final amount as low. I mean, it's not a low number, but hopefully lower than that max.
I don't have a question in my mind that's always what you two do, right? At least with acquiring debt. So, thank you.
And just one other clarifying thing, the way to get that MSBA, taking care of 37% of the roof, they assign a project manager, they assign a designer. So essentially, by the way the state operates, it would end up being two separate teams working. And just for us to be able to manage it, we need to kind of stagger it and get one project done and then do the other, and not have two sets of contractors climbing all over the building with two sets of designers. So, so we're working with RDA architects to have the building poised and ready for the roof project.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more. Board have anything else? Do we need, what number is this?
This is number 9. It has not been placed.
There it is. Can I get a motion to place?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion to place?
The comments the same as I made last week. I'd like to have the information before I make the decision, so I won't vote in favor of it, but I would publicly state that I'm not against it.
Information meaning how the
Meaning
debt.
the capital and how the debt's gonna line up and what the new debt schedule looks like, all the important questions for the taxpayers.
Anybody else? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Oh, sorry, Don?
I understand where Mr. McCaskill's coming from, but outside of the number, how we got to that, the reality is we have to place this. I mean, even if it's without a number. And I don't remember me saying so moved with a number.
I don't remember that either, and I don't believe that was your second.
I just want it to be
You're
placed
absolutely right,
so it's
Select
there.
Board Member Howell. So we have motion and a second. Any more discussion? Please?
Just to fire a comment back.
Please.
We don't have to do anything. We're choosing to. And again, I'm not supporting this article, but I am supporting it being placed without the information to give to the taxpayers. And that's the only thing. I'm not against your project.
Understood. Pete, did you?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. My only comment is the article does have a dollar number in it, so that's what we are placing. I'm gonna support placing it only because I don't see that number changing. However, whether or not I support the actual yea or nay is a different story.
Correct. Moved and more?
Yeah, there is a way of looking at that in a positive way, though, because
Yes.
in putting it there with that number, it's not going to go up, because it would be outside of the scope of the article, and it could conceivably have a motion associated with it that isn't that number. It could be a little bit less.
So the number's the ceiling, you're saying?
And that would be legal to make a motion that would be somewhat less than that within the scope of the article. You could not go up.
Yeah.
So I'm not really concerned about that. If you come up with another number that's like 500,000 less or something, that's what it is.
So we have no intention to bring another number forward for the rest of the budget, for the project, the middle school project.
Thank you. Pete?
Well, and we don't need to get into back and forth, but they could make an amendment on town meeting floor.
Yeah.
So,
Not going to go up.
Right.
sure they could.
Monterey wouldn't take it.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Michael, was that an aye?
Opposed.
4-1. Select Board Member McCaskill was opposed. Thank you. So, for clarity, for next Monday,
Yep.
I'd love the board to ask now if they have anything off the top of their head that they'd want to see or get more information so that we can have everything we need to move on this. I would like to, and we're going to make sure that the agenda item reads, so that I would like clarity on this YMCA room swap or whatever. I don't really.
Integrated pre-K.
Yeah, the integrated pre-K, I'd like to know all about that. We've gotten a couple of emails, actually more than a couple of emails on that subject, and it clearly represents part of the budget. So I'd like some clarity on the integrated preschool program and the Harwich Chatham Elementary School and how that's all being handled. So that's for me. Michael, anything for you?
Nothing more than I've already asked and watched Michael write down.
That pen still have any ink in it?
Not much.
All right, Julie?
No, I'm the same, and the stuff I had already mentioned.
Don and Pete, hate to interrupt, but is there anything you'd like to?
Busy over here.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt.
You can rejoin the meeting in a few minutes.
Just let me know when you're ready.
Nothing else.
Okay. All right, and if there's anything else, it'll come through me and I'll send it over to both of you, and I appreciate you both being here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. That was number 9.
That was number 9. Did you have a question about enhancements of services?
Well, I'm going to speak to enhancement of services right now. We had public comment ask about that. So if you wouldn't mind just reviewing what was
Sure.
asked.
Sure. We had 5 enhancements of services from departments for this year's budget. The first was from information technology, a $70,000 ask for an additional staff member for IT help desk professional. From police, we had a sergeant position request, which is in the neighborhood of $98,000. Public Works requested an assistant DPW director. That amount was $135,000. The Health Department has requested to develop a Health and Human Services Division, which would include an add to staff, and that was $106,000. And then finally, the Youth and Family Services Department has asked for an additional staff member for a staff clinician, just under $70,000.
Thank you. So there's the enhancement of services requests. All strong asks, all with merit. This board is not contemplating any additional enhancement of services at this time for this budget. But I want to thank all of the department heads for their work and their effort to put them forward to us so that we could understand better what they need from us and from the voters to do a better job at what they're doing already. So we are not contemplating any enhancement of services for this budget. Next on the list, Megan, if I'm not mistaken, would be number 20, Great Sand Lakes.
That is the one that hasn't been placed, but there are several that could be discussed. 12 through 20, they have not been supported.
Okay.
You can take whichever ones you'd like.
Let's do the Great Sand Lakes now, and then we'll move back.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
So we'll open it up to the board for discussion. Before I go to the public, anybody want to start? Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I think in full disclosure, I should say that you and I talked to Andrew Gottlieb universally over this whole thing. And they're two separate, I've said this before, but they're two separate discussions about whether we support it and whether we want to place it. In pondering what's been going on, one of the things that was stated by Andrew was that there are several ways that you could approach dealing with a body of water like that. One of them, I think you heard something about tonight, is like, that is one of the oldest associations in town, and they tried to do that which the town was not capable of doing early on, and they've continued to do that basically on the basis of people willingly grouping together and making behavioral changes so that they wouldn't be loading the ponds with even more phosphate and nitrogen. Another one of them had to do with what's the town going to try to do with increasing development around ponds. We adopted a DCPC in 2000 to be able to address that for the 6 ponds district. The third element of our discussion had to do with the sewering, and the fact of the matter is, it's on a comprehensive wastewater management plan, this project. Whether it's at 8 or so-called 3.5, it really doesn't matter, because at some point, we're gonna be obligated to do something. Not because necessarily we're enthusiastic about it, but because we've committed to doing that. It's gone to the county, been approved, it's gone to the state, and it's been approved. So the next question you have to ask yourself is, if we do not avail ourselves of the opportunity for funding that is there right now, we will most certainly be taken off of the intended use plan without any guarantee that next year or the year after that we will be placed back. And the worst possible scenario is that we find ourselves in a position where we're footing the bill for a sewer that's twice as expensive like 10 years from now, but we still nonetheless have to do it. So there's more to the discussion about whether we should support it or not, but I personally am prepared to make the same motion that we couldn't move on last week because Julie wasn't here and there wasn't any kind of momentum that we could pass placing it. But I am prepared, when everybody's had their say, to make another motion to rescind the prior vote so that we can clear the way to placing it on the warrant.
Thank you, Don. Anyone else?
Just as a matter of conversation, we already rescinded the last vote not to place. We're starting fresh.
Fresh.
Because the second and the motion were removed last week, so no motion got.
No, there wasn't, but we didn't actually replace it with placing this
But all
article.
we'll need is no motion to rescind, just a fresh motion.
Just need a fresh.
Place.
To place.
I'm still prepared to make that motion.
I'm prepared to second that. I think it's a debate for town meeting, so.
Michael?
Well, if that's a motion and a second, we into discussion, or we're just not gonna go to discussion first?
Was that a motion and a second?
I was willing to wait for everybody to
That was like a
discuss.
stealth motion and a
No, I
second.
did
right
the
there.
motion and you
That-
second.
that like
We
blew
know where
right-
you're going.
Yeah, okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Michael?
Yes, thank you. My only discussion is the same, and I'm not going to bore everybody with saying the same thing over and over again. I do take offense to an accusation against this board that was made by one of the proponents tonight that we are discounting and not paying attention to taxpayers. Our job is to focus on every taxpayer in this town, not just your group, but every group. And I think as you heard tonight, based on the debt, we've got some challenges, and it would be great to just sign the ink on absolutely everything. But it would be really great if we weren't just chasing a whole bunch of people out of town because they can't afford to live here. I don't believe this project solves the problem, and I think that we heard that from one gentleman that spoke, I believe it was Dave, a couple weeks ago. It gets us to a point where we're not putting anything else into the pond, but it doesn't solve it. So what's next? I still haven't been answered my question on what this project's gonna cost the taxpayers, alongside of the other 70 million and the many, many, many more millions that you heard tonight. I don't think any of you have, because if I missed it, I'd be shocked, because I'm sitting in every one of these meetings, not just the ones the proponent wants me to go to. So, I don't believe the town can afford this at this time. And to Don's point about 3A versus 8, whenever it is, this gets us 0 nitrogen credits. So we're gonna have to follow this project with another project to appease the state. And though I do appreciate how gung-ho the proponent is, the disparaging remarks, pointless, not gonna change my vote. The attack on character, pointless, not gonna change my vote. It's based on math, smirk all you want. It's based on math, only math, and math for every single person sitting in this room and every person that I represent in this town. And we heard about the 144 million tonight. We still have nothing showing per thousand what this project's gonna cost. And we still don't even have a real estimate. We still don't have a real estimate. We went from 31 million to 35 million plus grinder pumps, plus if you read the engineer's report and all of the uncertainties that are in the road, who knows where this project's gonna go? And I'll remind the public and the board, phase 2, we went to town meeting. with a number. And we fell on our faces and we were $10 million short. And the board at that time voted to absolutely never put the cart before the horse again, and I will not do that. It's irresponsible, and it is not representing you well. So I have an absolute no on this project.
Be a little more clear on that, or? Thank you. Pete?
I too take exception with some of the comments made this evening. I'm not sure where they came from, but there's been no disparaging remarks related to any member of the Great Sand Lake Association made by me or that I'm aware of from any other board members. And so to try to state otherwise would be an absolute misstatement of the truth. But with that said, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I appreciate the passion that your group brings forward for this project. Because some members may disagree with you, doesn't mean that we, think less of your group or you folks individually. We just disagree, and that's okay. That's what makes not only this board great, but, the community itself and the United States, quite frankly. So disagreement's a healthy thing, in my opinion. And I echo a lot of the comments that Selectman McCaskill made, other than I'm not sure this project actually stops the current issue that's being created. Because, as I stated last week, or whether it was 2 weeks ago, they're all a blur now, we're not even doing all the properties that abut these ponds. So there was no study done to say that this section of Phase 3A, formerly known as Phase 8, is going to prevent the issue that they're currently experiencing. And nor, to his point, is it going to necessarily clear up whatever is currently there. So I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. And then I also go to the fact that, and maybe I misread the letter, but there was a letter from our Cape delegation regarding the SRF. And the proposed language to change some of the funding and the carryovers and everything else. So I don't sit here tonight expecting that the money is going to be available, and I don't think the townspeople should go to the ballot assuming they're gonna get reimbursed, whatever the percentage is. If you approve it at its full nut, and you're willing to take that nut on. If we get a reimbursement, that's great. I think that would be wonderful, anytime you can get some money back. But please realize, that's your tax dollars. Everybody wants to assume, oh, that's free money. It's not free money, it's our tax money, coming back to us from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And so again, whether or not they're gonna be carryover, whether those funds will actually be approved, we don't know. And I don't care what one individual states, until the check is in the mail, until the check is in the account, I could give a damn what they have to say. And so, with this project being in the excess of $35 million for 270 homes, with the likelihood that it may not even solve the problem that's occurring, I can't support it.
Julie?
I have nothing more to add. I mean, I've said my piece in the sense that I'm not, by me seconding this motion, I'm not saying to the point that we should be approving the project, but I do believe that it should be a discussion on town meeting floor, and that's the reason for my second, so.
Thank you, Julie. So I'll add my thoughts, try to keep it as quick as I can. What I view my role as is to vet this project. And in vetting that project, I've done a pretty deep dive, as have my colleagues. And as Don pointed out, Don and I spent an hour and a half with Andrew on the phone the other day, just to get some more information. And I learned some things, which is...
Mr. Chair,
yeah,
could
please.
you just say who Andrew is?
Andrew Gottlieb, do you want to...
He's the head of the Association to Preserve Cape Cod.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. One of the points that the proponent has made, and I will say that those comments over the last couple of weeks to me has been nothing more than background noise and completely unproductive. And it's not going to sway my vote one way or the other, but I would think that we can do better than that going forward. With respect to the project, and one of the key points the proponent made was, why don't we take advantage of what we've purchased for flow from Chatham? And that on its surface and on the face would seem smart to do. But in digging, and Mark, if you don't mind, would you, I know can you come to the just to qualify, yeah, if you don't mind. Phase 2 and 3. 500 total homes in Phase 2, 666 homes in Phase 3. Sound about right?
Yes.
Okay. As of 3/24/25, 348 homes of Phase 2 are hooked up. Sound about right?
It does.
24 are in progress.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
As for Phase 3, no homes have hooked up, okay? So we are roughly, of the total 1,166 homes in Phase 2 and 3, we have 372 homes connected. That's about 32% by my awful math. The amount that was projected at 32% was 96,000 gallons. We are now running at 30,000 gallons per day. So again, if I do the math and we connect all of those homes and increase the percentage of flow by 66%, we're only at 100,000 gallons. So the estimate that was of 216,000 gallons is short by 116,000 gallons. No, I'm sorry, is short by, I'm not going to do that math. But we're looking at when and if all the homes, 1,166 homes get connected, we're only operating at 100,000 gallons out of 300,000 per day. Please.
There was the Phase 2, the original, Phase 2 did have a development or growth component to it.
And that was from 101,300 to 105,400. Is that what you're referring to? And then
I think it was larger than that, but.
Okay, and then Phase 3 had 114,900 to 127,600. But I guess my question is would it, in your opinion, in your expert opinion, we're not topping off by adding Great Sand Lakes, because here you estimate, not you, but the estimate for Great Sand Lakes is 36,000 to 400. I'm kind of thinking that's going to be more like 15,000.
So initially, yes, that's potentially. What has to be worked in is the growth potential for the area, population growth, things like that, development. So yeah, you wouldn't see that initially. Those are planning numbers that are based on current plus growth.
So you're saying
plus
growth for the
development.
Great Sand Lakes area? I don't see a lot of growth happening in the Great Sand Lakes area.
So there's a little bit of population growth that's worked in general.
Okay, fair enough. So,
Chair?
yeah, please.
If I could just add, I believe the water wastewater commissioners have talked about in open meetings, talking about potentially hiring an engineering firm or hiring another engineer to do actual studies on flow. So these studies and what you're talking about now, not studies, because we have no actual information on it. They're projections, correct? You're speaking only of
No,
projections.
I believe these were given to us at the flow meter. 30,000 gallons per day. Is that what you're?
Well, I'm curious as to how we're having this conversation when the water commissioners are having a conversation about hiring an engineer to get actual flows.
Well, that's
I don't want to go down that
Fine,
that
fine.
hole unless you want to, but I would
clearly
invite the water
clearly I wanted
commissioners
to.
here before we give more false information to the residents.
Well, if you're suggesting I'm giving false
I'm not.
information,
I'm
I
just
got this
saying-
from the water commissioners.
We want to hire engineers, so.
So that's another conversation that we can get into for sure. My feeling is, I just want to make sure that the public understands that we're not topping off by using the Great Sand Lakes. I'll get to the point that I was getting to, is that we're not topping off the extra 30,000 gallons per day by sewering the Great Sand Lakes. So that's first. I also learned the state pays through the entire construction period. So if it takes 4 years to build, the state is paying, and I want this to be vetted by you, obviously, because this is information that I received last week. The state pays for the length of the construction period. And then once it's final, and the construction period is over, then whatever the cost of the project was turns into an actual loan.
That's correct.
Thank you.
There's a 0% cost during construction.
Correct.
So-
It might not be a 0% when the loan converts from construction loan to an actual. Maybe.
a max of 2% and
Okay.
a minimum 0%.
All right, fair enough. And to Michael's point, there is no cost per homeowner yet. So if I choose to support putting it on the warrant, I do so for a couple reasons. The first is I don't feel it's my responsibility to gatekeep. I think the voters should be able to vote on projects. It's my job, our job, to vet and place and educate, and then either support it or not. I also want to make sure that we protect the public interest, because there is an expiration date to the borrowing potential at 0 and 25% loan forgiveness. There is a definitive date certain there. So protecting the public interest. But the biggest factor for me is that there's an off-ramp. The town is authorizing us to borrow, but that doesn't mean if the project becomes so expensive that we just don't feel it's the right time to do it for our town, we can back out of this at any point in time. Do you agree with that?
I do agree.
That, to me, is the seal. It seals the deal for me. We can then spend a long time evaluating this project, letting you do your great work, figuring out what this is going to cost, how many grinder pump, so forth and so on. If the 0% changes and the 25% loan forgiveness isn't what they said it was going to be, we can pivot.
So there does come a time in the schedule, let me just clarify,
Please,
make sure we're on
sure.
the same page,
Right.
okay? You need an appropriation by June 30th, and then in October, you submit an application. It's kind of like your loan
Understood.
application.
Right.
So, that's, you're getting closer to committing. I mean, once you hit the springtime and have bids in, that's when
Yep.
you start to finalize things.
It gets real.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So for me, that's where I stand. Anybody on the board have any more to add? Don?
Yeah, Phase 2 has been brought up a bunch of times. I know that sitting here, I was the only one who voted against the contract because, to me, it was just a bad deal because we got an appropriation to town meeting and the project bid out at a higher amount than what the appropriation was. The only thing I can assure you is I'm going to do the same thing this time, that unless the money is already there as an appropriation, there's no way I'm going to go forward because it felt like extortion. It felt like if you were building a high school, you wouldn't say, okay, I'll go with what they gave me, and I'll just leave the gym out, and I'll leave the auditorium out, and maybe 2 classrooms, and I'll come back for more money next year. That was duplicitous of us. We should have never done that, and I'm going to rest on my own conscience that I wasn't supporting that back then, and I wouldn't support it again now. And I have a feeling that nobody here, now that they've seen that occur, would ever do that. So that's a promise that I think the public needs to hear is, to Mr. Handler's point, if the bids come in and they're like $8 million above what we appropriated at town meeting, there's no way we're going to wing it and start it and then see if we can pick up the slack somewhere down the road, because that's not happening.
I wasn't part of that at the time, I just want to say that.
That's why you're here.
I'm sorry?
That's why you're here.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
different firm.
yes, yeah, so.
Thank you.
I will say that Phase 3 went a lot better. So.
Well
but
put.
Again, that's why you're here.
I do understand your point.
Anything, Pete?
I'm just going to read an excerpt, if I could, from the delegation's letter. More concerningly, the towns on Cape Cod and the islands cannot access principal forgiveness through the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund unless they receive SRF funding. This interconnected financing structure has driven the increased pace of wastewater remediation projects in recent years that we have long sought. The elimination of carryover funding and the imposition of annual caps will have far-reaching consequences, potentially stalling or even halting progress on wastewater management across the Cape. From the delegation.
Thank you. Martha?
Martha Donovan, East Harwich, Chair of the Capital Outlay Committee. You all had asked us to go back, and so I wanted to get at least this project in before you vote. I have others to talk about when you get to the capital plan. So we met last Thursday, and there were 5 of us at the meeting. Joe, the town administrator, asked us to vote on putting the $35 million into the capital plan. I think that was sort of the missing component for us anyway. We voted unanimously to add it to the capital plan, the $35 million. And then we had a discussion, which Joe walked out on the merits of the plan. And there were 4 members who felt that it made sense to take advantage of the funding and the low interest rate and the potential loan forgiveness. And of those 4 members, there was maybe 1 or 2 that also felt that the town should sewer for pond water quality. The one vote against the project is going to be no surprise to anybody, but it was me. So I will proudly say that. And I'm just somebody who doesn't believe that you make a financial decision, and I think this is what you are all saying, based on the fact that you can get a low interest rate loan and maybe some loan forgiveness. You have to do it on the merits of the project, and I think that's what you're all talking about, which makes me happy. This project is 2 to 3 times more expensive per household than phase 2 and 3, as you know. So for me, it doesn't make financial sense, and I don't think we've yet explored other options. And I'm going to make this one up just to put it out there. And I have no right to do this because I don't know anything about anything when it comes to this. But
That's a good lead-in, by the way.
yeah, so you'll buy this, right?
Now we're really listening.
Right. But if you look at an alternative sewer septic system, right, I've heard numbers like $50,000. And seriously, the town could go out and buy 300 systems, have them installed, and it would cost $15 million and probably do the same thing. I'm just putting that out there. I'm not an engineer. I don't know if it would work. I don't know if it would do what we would say. But I don't know that we've necessarily explored all the options. That's my way of saying that. I think the other thing that I've argued against is the debt capacity, as you know. We have roughly 25 million out for phase 2. We right now have 50 million out for phase 3. Potentially we'd get some loan forgiveness on that. Add another 35 million. I'm just going to use a round number, $100 million in debt that we have just for sewer, right? We don't have $100 million that's from 30 years ago or 20 years ago or 10 years ago or even 5 years ago that's rolling off the plan. I don't need a schedule to see that. So if we look at what it's going to cost us to service that debt over 30 years, $100 million, it's roughly $3 million a year, and that's not including any interest. And that's roughly 7 cents on every dollar that we have available in the operating budget that won't go towards the operating budget. And if we need to do 5 more phases and maybe a wastewater treatment plant, it is severely going to limit us, is my feeling. The other reason that I was a negative was the objective of the project. Our original objective was nitrogen mitigation. We're early stages of phase 3, and I feel like we're caving on that objective. Now, I'm somebody who's always thought we're going to have to sewer more of the town than we really thought we would for other reasons, but I'm not ready to do it at the beginning of phase 3. I think we need to stay on track with what we originally planned for. And this was new information that you gave about the affluent, but my last comment is related to the affluent, and it seems to be confusing about what is available or not available. But if we have to go back to Chatham while we're still trying to maybe secure a better deal with the schools, do we want to be fighting in 2 areas at the same time? Does it make sense? So it doesn't matter what I thought in the Capital Outlay Committee because they made a positive vote for the merits of the project. So, but I just wanted to share that. That was the discussion we all had in the Capital Outlay Committee.
Thank you, Martha.
Yeah.
Any other board members? Can't remember, do we have a motion? in
Yeah,
this?
we do.
We do,
It was
okay.
about an hour ago.
That's great. Okay, we have a motion and a second, no more discussion. Just so we're clear on it, thanks, Mark. I'm going to do a roll call on it so I can hear everything.
Place only.
Yeah. All in favor, Pete?
No.
Don?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Michael?
No.
And I'm an aye. To place. Now back up to 12 through 20, 12 through 19.
Mr. Chair, back to that one, not to continue that one. Is your intention tonight to try and get a support or not support or indefinitely postpone?
I'd hear
Or are we going to leave that blank?
I would entertain a motion on that.
I'm only asking, and I don't, whatever the flavor of the board is, but
Don, thank you for that, Michael.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about that myself. That's why I said place only, because I think it's worth us to get Andrew in here as an agenda item so that we could pepper him with questions, because he was part of the team that wrote the SRF legislation that created it. He understands the mechanism, he understands what's happening right now, what's likely to happen in the future, I mean, and ask away, but we don't know enough right now.
Nor will he.
Well, he's a lot closer to knowing than we are.
That might be, I'll be in Maine, but can we,
Yeah.
do we want to do an indefinitely postponed, Don? Is that your intention? Because we're not going to have him here before we close the, so we either go with no position at all, or,
We've gone with no position in the past with things that when we show up at town meeting, say the FinCom and us, we don't agree. We've changed positions, they've changed positions, and I don't see the necessity to create a position for this.
that's it. I'm going to make a motion to indefinitely postpone.
Second.
Yeah, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Pete?
Aye.
Done?
No.
Julie?
No.
Michael?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. 3-2 to indefinitely postpone.
I'd still like him to be invited in.
Sure. Yeah. Back to 12 through 19.
Okay. Article 12 is a petitioned article from the Charter, for the Charter Commission to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of $125,000 to cover expenses of the Harwich Home Rule Charter Commission and to act fully thereon.
Thank you.
This
So,
has been placed, it's just a vote to accept and adopt.
and I think we have a representative here. Linda, are you here to speak in Sandy's place, please? Thank you for being here.
I'm a poor substitute for Sandy Hall on this. But here I am.
Disagree.
I know that you received, what are you giggling for?
Just saying I disagree.
I know that you have in the packet her letter that she put forth as the lead petitioner, and for the $125,000. She went through some of the specific details that a charter commission, if elected, you know, if it passed at the ballot and the people are elected, then it has X number of months, 16 months, to review the charter, come up, there are some requirements to have public hearings, there are requirements to do certain things by certain dates. That is all in that letter. I won't bore everybody with it. But I think that the key thing is the money to do the job. That part of this is, we're going to have people who are running for that position of charter commission who have some knowledge, but not a lot. And therefore, to be able to go out and hire an expert who can say, oh, we'd like to put in the charter this. Well, it's against Mass General Law, such and thus. Okay, that kills that issue. Or the way that other communities have done this, here are 3 ways to do and approach this topic. That's going to be invaluable to us. I am running for the Charter Commission, so just to make that clear, why I said us, but that's going to be invaluable information. We can do some information ourselves, but to be able to phrase whatever the change is, all that stuff has to be done, legal beagle stuff. We want to make sure that whatever is done is appropriate and meets the needs of the community. And this $125,000 to hire a consultant, we then have to publish this. So we've got to, print 85 gabillion copies of this thing, of whatever is going to be proposed at a ballot and at town meeting, to say, here it is. People have to have that. They have to have the executive summary. Here are the key points. All of that needs to be done for transparency. Now, there is in the October 2023 special town meeting, there was $75,000 authorized by town meeting for purposes of charter review. One of the things you could do is you could authorize the 125 and repurpose that $75,000 old article, which hasn't had a dime spent out of it, because speaking for the Bylaw Charter Committee, of which I am on, we couldn't seem to wrestle that money out of your pocketbooks. But you could do that, and all you're asking the public for is $50,000. But again, there's a great deal that goes with this, and again, you have to print the entire charter, the new changes, in a public newspaper. And I'm sure you're well aware, as we are, of how much it costs to publish the warrant. This will be another one. So this is not going to be a cheap endeavor, and we are going to need some funds. So what questions do you all have for me?
Thank you. I'm just going to start by making a statement that I spoke with legal counsel today regarding who has control of that money.
Yes.
And legal counsel's opinion is that that would be under the care and jurisdiction of the Select Board, simply because no committee has authorization to execute contracts. So if you're talking about going out and getting legal, which is probably a good idea, it wouldn't be the checkbook, so to speak.
Understood.
So I just wanted to make that clear, because the petitioner stated that it would be under the jurisdiction of the committee.
If we could get
It's
that
not.
in writing from town council, that would
Absolutely.
be
It's
very
actually in
nice.
my inbox now.
But I do understand that. However, if this money does pass and it's available, we really don't want to get into piddling contests over it. If it's there, and if it's a reasonable ask, hopefully you won't be fighting it.
Well, my feeling, at least, before I go to the board, is we should give this committee.
Commission.
I'm sorry, this commission, thank you, a fair opportunity to succeed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Emily, would you go to the mic real quick, please? I just have one quick question, then I'm going to go to the board. Emily, if you would just, thank you for coming up, would you just state the state mandate on this? What the state requires you, to, essentially, I believe you to do for the town?
In terms of funding?
Funding.
So the statute, I believe it's Chapter 43B, Section 8. I think funding. Yeah.
No funding.
Regardless, 8 or 9, requires the town to give $5,000. And the language in the statute is with or without appropriation. So essentially, even absent a town meeting article, the town has to come up with $5,000. But that is the number in the statute for a community of our size.
Excellent. Thank you. Now go to the board. Any questions for Linda?
I just have one.
Julie?
So basically, we could either rescind the 75,000 that was already out there, or amend this article that would be, like you said, 50,000. But would it now be 45,000 if the town clerk's in charge of giving them 5? So that it's a total of 120, if that's what you were looking for as the 125.
I believe that what the town clerk said is that you are obligated to give the commission $5,000 regardless of anything else, correct? So, personally, I don't care where it comes from.
Right.
I'm looking for a
That's what
buck
I'm
and a
saying.
quarter.
You'd be happy with the 5 from them, and then.
No, we would be.
No, no, what I
Got
mean
it.
is, the 75 exists, so this article would either be changed to reflect another additional 50,000 to your point, but now that Emily's told us she's gonna give you 5, we could
No, she
amend
didn't
this.
say that. She said, Mass General Law requires the town to give us $5,000.
Well, that's what I'm.
She's not giving us
Emily-
squat.
Emily is working on behalf of the town.
Yes,
So the
just to clarify.
5,000, I'm not, Emily, it's not, you're not writing a check. I'm not, no.
It's not coming out of her budget.
Yeah, I'm totally not implying that. What I'm trying to say is, for
Poorly,
the
by the
town,
way.
yeah, very poorly, apparently. 5,000 is coming to you by way of the town through the clerk's office. Let's just say it that way.
Sure.
Okay? So then you really only need another 45,000. So we either amend this article to reflect 45,000, or no, technically, I get it, you need your 50, it's just coming through her.
I think what I'm saying is, the article, the petitioner is requesting $125,000.
Right, but you have 75.
The funding mechanism is the 75,000 being repurposed from the old article, plus the 50,000. And
Yeah.
that gets us there.
That gets you there, right, okay. I'm good.
Are you done?
I'd feel a lot more comfortable if the commission actually was formed. This is a petition article, we can't change it anyway. We can only debate it in town meeting.
Right, yeah.
Actually,
So-
can't change it on, this does not go to town meeting.
The petition article is,
The petition article for funding, but the,
that's what I'm talking about.
okay, got it.
Talking
I
about
just want to
money.
make sure the public
no, I'm only
understands.
talking about money.
Creating the
I
commission
know,
goes
I know.
directly
Julie already got me
to a
confused.
ballot.
I get it, but the petition article that we're taking up right now
Yep, all right, goes to town
is
meeting.
one person's request, not an elected commission, for $125,000. And to your point, charter review, not being able to wrestle the money out of us, We did have a professional organization in here that said our charter really wasn't that bad. So town meeting would have to vote to rescind article for 75,000 and then reappropriate that.
Correct.
And I think it's greedy of this person to ask for 120,000 with no plan and without input from 8 other elected people. Well, that's assuming she gets elected. But why do we need to start, 16 to 18 months is 2 town meetings? Why do we need to go out of the gate with 125,000 when the state thinks it's only worth 5,000? In your opinion?
I can't comment on why the state is 5,000, because you can go to the school choice, and it's still something like, what is it, $5,000 for school choice? And that's a drop in the bucket of
Well,
what it
this one I
costs.
agree with the state. But I would probably support the 75,000, you know, with a future ask at another town meeting, that we're gonna hit 2 town meetings, rather than just appropriate on a year that money matters. And we're questioning 25,000 for the historical commission, and put the school on the hot seat. So I personally would support rescinding the 75,000 that's already there, but would make a motion to indefinitely postpone the 125,000, because I think it's a tall ask, without even one meeting of an elected body.
Pete?
I've said before, I would support the 75 as well. You know, I think, and I read the memo, I'm not looking for it to be done quickly. You know, I know there's, you know, a time frame that's outlined, but I agree that we would be able to come back for the additional funds when necessary. Perhaps it's another 50, maybe it's actually gonna be another 75, we don't know. So I'd rather hold off to see what the number actually is when we need it, and I think 75 is more than enough to get them going for the next 12 months.
Don?
That's actually where I was going to go, because Joe's not here, but
He's not?
I've noticed that. But yeah, I don't know, it's my belief that the article that was passed before, forget the mechanism, it authorized $75,000 for the purpose of examining the charter. And I'm fairly certain that when the town administrator looks into this, that that's already there. You don't have to rescind it and then reallocate it to this, because the purpose of the money was the same purpose as it's being done now by a different entity, but it's still the same purpose. So I would suggest that you've already got 75,000 if this gets off the ground and it gets approved at the ballot. And I just, off the top of my head, we've already discussed the fact we're not doing a local comprehensive plan, and we're probably going to do it as a fall special. So if things start shaking out and become more obvious that we really need to be able to augment that, we're not going to be a year away.
I have nothing to add. Do you?
I would just like to respond to Mr. Howell
Please.
and to the board, that while town meeting did pass that $75,000, and we all are saying, oh, that money is available, the purse strings, the kufetyk, didn't seem to be opened. Kufetyk is a Polish word for money bag. So.
Not to you, anyway.
To me, well, maybe to, oh, aren't you sweet, Michael? I'll hold you to that. But the money is going to be needed. If we're going to hire a consultant to properly do this, some person who is actually has experience in this, not just whatever run-of-the-mill, sorry, Megan, attorney we can find, we need the money. So hopefully, one way or another, you will see fit to either fund this or allow the use of the $75,000 that's still sitting there.
Yeah, please, Michael.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we would indefinitely postpone Article 12, funds for anticipated expenses of the Harwich Home Rule Charter Commission in the amount of $125,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 No. No. 4-1.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Please?
I move that we place, oh, no, we've already placed it.
We've done that.
I move we accept and adopt the capital outlay plan. I know when we go to second, if we get one, Martha's coming back up, which is Article 13.
Second.
Moving to accept and adopt.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Martha?
Martha Donovan, East Harwich, Chair of the Capital Outlay Committee. So I just wanted to come back around about the 3 other items that you asked us to look at. One of them was the Saquatucket bulkhead replacement. We unanimously agreed to leave the items in, the cost in the budget as it is stated currently, so $770,000 in fiscal year '26, and I think it's maybe 9.9 in '28. The thinking on that was that Joe shared the results of the engineering report. There are sections of the bulkhead that have a useful life of somewhere between 2 and 4 years, and there's some sections of the bulkhead that have a longer life, maybe up to 10 years. So it made sense to do the engineering and the permitting, and that will sort of inform us about what it's actually going to cost, what the scope of the project looks like, and maybe can we do it in sections, and maybe we can't because it doesn't make engineering sense or financial sense. So we'll get some feedback over the next year on that. We have some time before the actual expenditure of the construction gets considered, so we were fine with that one. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
For the Harwich Elementary School, the town administrator added $40,000 for the replacement of smoke alarms, and we unanimously approved those. We had a discussion about whether or not those were really capital items, because under the Harwich charter, it has to be more than $50,000, but Joe wanted to keep it in there for transparency because we're now responsible for the elementary school. I asked Michael, he said, because of course my concern was, would they issue debt for the $40,000? He said no, they would use their operating budget to pay for it, which I think makes sense. We also had a little bit of a discussion in the hallway about, we probably need to sit down and figure out, I think Chatham has a different limit for capital, and we have a different limit, and I'm not sure what the school's limit is. Maybe for the Harwich Elementary School, we need to figure that out. And the final thing was, and I asked him, and I see you guys are struggling with it too, with the budget. According to Joe, they don't start their planning until January, and we have to submit our plan to you in December. So I asked him if at least I'll just work on the elementary school because that's on the capital plan. Could they do it in October or November? So it's all incorporated, and we're not coming back having to do this thing and add things at the last minute. And he sounded like he was receptive to considering that. So we'll just keep working on that with him. And we also had a discussion, not much of a discussion, on the Monomoy Regional School District siding project. Joe did share the warrant and the numbers. I think the one comment was we were happy that the $2.5 million was included. I just asked Michael to confirm that the way that Chatham is going to write their warrant is the same as ours, just to make sure there's no issues with it. We did not weigh in any other way on that because we just don't have the information, and it's not on Joe's budget. So if at some point you wanted to add that to his budget, the schools, that would be a discussion between you and Joe, and then he would bring us in to review it. So we're not going to weigh in on that one. Okay, any questions?
Any questions from the board? Pete?
The only thing is, and this is really regarding the plan, the draft plan that's in the packet. So the 40,000 for the school is not there, and nor is the 35 million on the 3A sewer extension as written in the packet.
So the motion would then say as presented, because they are obviously changing those, but you agreed to add those.
We
correct?
agreed to add those.
So obviously-
Joe put them on. Let me make it really clear. Joe put them on. We agreed with Joe.
So they just didn't physically make it onto the plan in the packet.
Correct.
So I would make my motion to approve as presented, not as in the packet.
By the chair of the Outlay Committee.
Yes. As amended.
Are we talking about not having the Harwich Elementary School $40,000?
No, it's on.
No, it's on there.
It's on there?
Yeah.
But it's not here?
Or is it
Correct.
35 million?
Correct. Just,
So that whole capital budget needs to be updated for the 40,000 in fiscal year '26 for the Harwich Elementary School, and 35 million for the 3A sewer project.
I made a motion and it is as amended. Was that your second, Don?
I remember it.
Okay, thank you. And we've gotten through Pete, and I believe it's now Don's turn to speak if you allow him. Done my job.
Hopefully the capital plan is done, and we don't have any more changes to town hall. I'm not going to come to any more meetings, so you won't have to listen to me about debt.
Just before we move through the next 3 or 4 articles, The one peculiarity happens to be the Brooks Academy. I believe that Joe had wanted to fund that through the sinking fund. And it doesn't show up anywhere else. Is that still the intention?
That's what our conversation was, through you, Mr. Chair. That was what our conversation was.
Okay.
I read it as free cash in the packet.
It was split, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was dual funded. Sinking fund, I think it was 400 and something thousand.
Yeah, but again,
Yeah,
I didn't
no,
find a particular
you're right.
article that's picked that out and said, okay.
To me, Article 15 has it coming out of the
Free cash.
free cash, 100% of it.
Yeah. I
And
thought
that's
it was
not
free-
what the town administrator had originally proposed.
If I may, through you, Mr. Chair?
Please.
We voted as presented. We can always change it next week.
That's right.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Now, my only other question, and this is, or my only question is, in the bottom watershed, 3A is not a watershed. 3A is the CWMP, isn't it?
That's right. We've been calling it the watershed management plan instead of the comprehensive wastewater management plan.
But we're going to have 5 watersheds, from what I understand.
We already, yep.
We do.
already do. Mhm.
So it might not matter. I just want to make sure that,
This is part of the watershed management
fine,
plan.
thank you very much. Then we're good. Moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Question?
Yeah, please.
You had talked about adding things, as amended. You had talked about the, we'll get to it on Article 15, your preference on whether free cash or sinking fund is all I wanted to know. So we can have it
On
ready for you
15.
on 15.
Because this says, oh, no,
So I'm good.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Please, that's 5-0.
I move that we accept and adopt Article 14, Fund Capital from various sources as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0,
Mr. Chair,
please.
I move that we accept and adopt Article 15, Fund Capital from free cash as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll give it to Julie.
Okay.
Any discussion, Pete?
Quick
Yeah,
question, if I
please.
could.
Sure.
Do we have more specific information on the police cruiser replacements? So what does the 210,000 line up to be?
Come on up, Mr. Hutton.
Oh, sorry. Didn't see you sitting back there.
Is that what did you send me that?
So the question is,
That's one I hadn't sent.
210,000 is in this article for police cruiser replacements. I'm wondering quantity that we get for 210,000. 3 cruisers? And that, you don't trade them in, so that, they just go off to other departments, and so that's essentially all in, the purchase of the cruiser and then, you know,
Outfitting
fitting
them
them.
and everything,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
I think Don gets a cruiser. Don't you get a cruiser?
No, I want the motorcycle.
He is a cruiser?
Used to have.
Oh, he used to have one. All right. Pete, any more on that?
Yeah, well, if I could continue on the
Sure.
Public Works, so, and I know there was a communication that I received today, but if we could get into that a little bit. So it looks like there's a couple vehicles that have pretty low miles on them, 45,000 on one, 70 on another, but because of the age of the vehicle, they're rusting out.
That's right. The one with 45,000 miles is a Peterbilt. It's a excavation vehicle. It's not a one that drives on the roads. And it has been replaced. The cab of it has already been replaced once, and it is rotting out, and they think it's more prudent to replace it rather than keep fixing it.
And so it's an excavator.
It's an excavation piece of equipment. Front loader, right? Want to call it a front
Sure.
loader? Okay.
Either one.
It's another
All right.
word for it.
And the other one was,
The other one was a one they use for plowing. So let me find that email.
and it sounds like if they're rusting out, we need them. I just wonder, you know, they seem to have such low miles on them for their age. that-
Hours.
Are there some, is there another use that they could, and again, I'm not trying to manage Link's department. I just wonder, with such low miles, are we getting a bang for our buck?
Mr. Chair, through you,
Please.
depending on what the answer is, can we just ask the DPW director to put it into a memo form for us for next week?
Yes, we can.
Sure. Yep, it's a Peterbilt. There's one that's a F-350 and the other is a Peterbilt. Both truck frames have deteriorated to a point that is no longer making sense to attempt to repair, and both are questionable to pass the safety inspections.
Okay, thank you. And just one last question, if I could, and it's about so this talks, the explanation talks about a balance of free cash of $1,945,000 after this article? Is that a true number?
So, there's an amendment to Article 15 that I had on your places, on your chairs. There was one department request for road maintenance in the amount of $700,000 that is in the capital plan. It was not on the Article 15, so that has been updated to have a total free cash request for $4,341,149, which would have a balance left in free cash of 1.48. So the balance does go down with the 700,000 added to it, but that is our certified free cash number. It's a true number. And with these reductions, we still have a balance of 1.48 million.
If I could just ask for your indulgence for 1 minute, Mr.
Please,
Chair.
Mr. McCready, that's where your question is answered. Free cash to the $700,000. Want me to ask a couple more questions of the audience, Peter?
That'd be swell. And the reason I ask is I think there might be an incorrect total on our the article on our desk. My math comes up to $4,576,149.
And are you adding the ones with in the parentheses?
I added the right-hand,
Right-hand
most right-hand column.
Okay. We can update that.
Which would leave, and again, my rough numbers here, $1,245,290 in free cash.
You're correct, Pete. 4576149.
You are correct.
Can we get that highlighted in the minutes, please?
My motion was as amended.
Mm-hmm.
Who seconded that one?
That was Don. Good catch, Mr. Pete.
Don, was that your second?
That was.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion on the capital outlay projects funded from free cash? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chair,
5-0, please.
I move that we accept and adopt Article 16, Fund Capital from Golf Improvement Fund, as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. 5-0, Megan.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept and adopt Article 17, Fund Capital from water retained earnings,
Second.
as presented.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. 5-0, Megan.
Chair, I move that we accept and adopt Article 18, Fund Capital from wastewater retained earnings, as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Bless you. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Chair, I move that we accept and adopt Article 19, Fund Capital with borrowing and debt exclusion for the fire department, as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
It's the reason I wanted to have an accurate number on the free cash, because I wonder if the board, and I don't think we should move forward tonight, but I wonder if the board has an appetite to purchase the ambulance with the remaining free cash of 1.245 rather than borrowing another 1.1. So again, we may want to have a conversation with Joe before we move forward, but something to consider.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Michael.
I would certainly support that. I think we move forward tonight to get this done, but then we can change the funding source at the next meeting, if that would be okay with Select Board Member Pekarsky. I don't know if there's any other ideas, and I know that with us tweaking the budget, the way we're tweaking the budget still, and possibly again next week, I'd hate to commit that money.
Yeah, which is why I wanted to have a conversation, but provided the board's open to at least entertaining the conversation down the road?
Yes.
We can place and have the conversation later. Yes.
Well, this is the support.
This is accept and adopt.
I'm sorry, yes, we can, right, change the funding source. So moved and seconded, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept and adopt Article 54, Annual Departmental Revolving Fund Authorizations as presented. Sure Don's not seconding this one, but just
moving
just a
back.
heads up.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
Which one are we on?
Second
54.
page, towards the bottom, revolving funds.
Revolving funds.
Chair?
Please?
My only discussion is, we're in the 24th hour, and I recognize that other board members want to see some things change and have them fast, and would only commit to supporting taking this up after town meeting and really doing a deep dive into the revolving fund and changing them, but I don't see how we accomplish changing these revolving funds in any way at this point.
Don?
Only to make mention, Mr. Chair, that we're in the 96th hour by my reckoning, because it's been ignored every single year for the last 4 or 5 years. Some way or another, we have to have this discussion in, I don't know, mid-May or June.
So, do you want to jump in here, Pete?
No, if you want to say something,
No, I
have
do.
a comment.
Well, I do, thank you.
Yep.
So after last Monday, at least to me, it was clear that 4 board members were in favor of looking at the revolving funds. We asked the administration to, for the lack of a better way to put it, evaluate what it would take to make changes, and then tell us what it means if we were to make those changes, and how you would have to do that, and what it would impact. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Megan, so
Sure.
if you wouldn't mind, just a quick narrative on what you
Sure.
all found out.
So changing the revolving funds is something you can absolutely do in time. It does take changing the article for the annual departmental revolving fund authorizations, which will then trigger changing Article 4, which is the departmental budgets. If you're taking their revenue, you'll need to add that to your local receipts, so that's another place where we'd need to analyze. We'd also need to look at adding money to 2 different funds if you're just looking at the 204. Some of those salaries and wages and repair funds would go to the DPW, and some of them would go into the cultural affairs line. So you'd be touching lots of areas of the budget in a short amount of time between now and next week. That, as far as administration and finance go, it's not always a good idea to do it in that finite amount of time. But we have heard you, and we do feel that this is a discussion that can happen at the end of May, beginning of June, so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle and happen at the 11th hour next year.
Well, I for one would be committed to moving that forward as soon as we get some freed up time here in our agendas. So, anybody, Pete, did you want to?
Well, yeah, my only comment was, I really was looking to see if this exercise could be completed. We talked about it last week. Joe alluded to the fact that it didn't seem like an extremely heavy lift. I realize there's a variety of budget line items that could be impacted, but I think the calculations are pretty straightforward. Personally, I'd like to try to bring it back next week, and realizing it's a tall task, and we're in the 11th or 96th hour. Right now, it's 8:45, and I'm missing a basketball game. But regardless of all of that, my preference would be to see if we couldn't incorporate it and bring it back again next week.
Okay.
A question on the 204 revolving fund. Right now, some of the programming costs, well, all of the programming costs, but some of them cover a part-time program aide. That isn't always necessary. That's kind of why it's out of the revolving fund and not out of the operating budget. Are you looking to dissolve that fund altogether, or just take out the building expenses?
speaking for myself, I'm not looking to dissolve it by any
Okay.
stretch, right?
Okay. And that, we can work on that for next week and see how many moving parts we have to move.
Okay, fantastic.
And I think as we talked before, I'm sorry, but, you know, this may be a step one. You know what I mean? So maybe it's not everything that we eventually get to, but we do a step one, if it can be done in the next week. And then, to your point, we look at, because as I stated last week, there's a couple of these that perhaps I would support, you know, doing away with in their entirety. So this wouldn't be one of them, but this might be step one of a multiple step process.
Excellent. Julie, did you want to?
Well, so we have the motion and the second, so before I remove my second, I just want to say, I have no problem with looking at anything and doing, and making any changes moving forward, but I just feel like we are compressed for time, and we're trying to close this, so, you know, I would prefer to move forward on this, but if the feeling of the board is to bring it back for more discussion on Monday when Joe's back, I'm happy to remove my second, but I am concerned timing-wise.
And if I could just follow up on that, I'd probably be more concerned if we placed and approved the budget, but since we didn't do that, and it seems like there may be work that's required on that budget anyway, again, according to what Joe's statements last week, it didn't seem like an extremely heavy lift to make some of these adjustments, to take monies from this particular account and place them in other accounts within the budget. That's, again, based off his comments.
All right, well, I'll remove my second.
I will remove my motion. Just one last piece of conversation on this is, I would agree normally. I think what we're talking about doing to the budget next week are some of the things we talked about earlier. This would require more than one operational budget to be altered. And in my conversations this week, it was a little more than a light lift. So it became something. So I hope we all have at least an open conversation, because if we don't have drafts going into next week when we vote an operating budget with real numbers plugged in that make sense to all of us, and don't handicap one revolving fund, we're going to spend, I don't believe the school conversations are going to be short. I guess that's the best way to say that. So hopefully we can keep an open mind to pass this if it is more of a lift, and it's explained that it's more of a lift than not.
Yep, and I will assure you that my mind is definitely open to it.
Excellent. So we'll move that to next week, Megan.
Will do.
Thank you.
The only one I had left was 56 amend zoning bylaw ADU. Planning board was supposed to meet on that. I'm not sure if they did.
We have a staff member here.
And thank you. I think I said you'd be on the agenda first. And I apologize that Jeff didn't move you up. But,
No comments here, no comments.
Move the dart.
Christine Flynn, Town Planner. The planning board is scheduled to hold a public hearing on April 8th. Just to give a brief recap, the intention of changing the zoning bylaw is in response to the Affordable Homes Act that was passed this past August and signed by the governor. And it went into effect as of February 2nd, 2025. And so several of the corrections were recommended by town council that we need to just be consistent with the state guideline, with the state's protection of, I'm sorry, I'm gonna rephrase that, protected use accessory dwelling unit. And it's now protected under Massachusetts Chapter 40A, Section 3, which also protects educational uses, religious institutions, and agricultural uses as well. So in terms of the ADU bylaw, some of the changes are that the state is now defining an accessory dwelling unit as a self-contained, livable, habitable space, and the size of the ADU is restricted to half of the principal dwelling unit or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. And so that's one of the changes. The town right now has an accessory dwelling unit bylaw that's allowed by right, and up to 1,000 square feet with 2 bedrooms. So the change at the state level, under Chapter 40A, Section 3, has that change, but it also allows accessory dwelling units by right in all wherever residential single-family houses are allowed.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
given the meeting hasn't happened, I think it'd be appropriate to place at this point, and then a motion to indefinitely postpone, which we could change on town meeting floor, or withdraw the article if we're not ready for it. If that's acceptable to the board, I would make that motion.
Second.
Move, well, the first one to place.
So the motion is to place Article 56, amend zoning bylaw / ADU as presented on the town meeting warrant.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Opposed.
4-1. Don, you were a yay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, I couldn't hear.
Okay, and then I would move that we indefinitely postpone Article 56, amend zoning bylaws, ADU as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Mr. Chair?
Please.
One that's not here, and it was mentioned earlier a little while ago about the LCP, Local Comprehensive Plan, and that we're not moving forward to that. Last week's meeting, we did not determine that because the Local Comprehensive Plan Committee was going to meet and make that recommendation. So I know I made the recommendation that we do not act on that out of respect for that committee and wanting to hear that from them. Did they meet?
Christine?
Yes, we did meet, the local planning committee did meet regarding the local comprehensive plan 2 weeks ago, not at the last week's meeting, but at the previous meeting, there was a recommendation to consider the idea of postponing the adoption of the local comprehensive plan to the fall. I don't recall if an actual formal motion was made, but I do believe that there was consensus among the local planning committee members in their desire to move it to the fall, to ensure that there's to ensure a better working product for the town.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. And as our professional, would that be your recommendation?
Yes.
Thank you. There's no action, I guess, that needs to be taken because it's already off. But thank the committee for it.
Thank you.
And I've spoken to the chair, and the chair was in favor of that. Thank you. Pete, did you want to have a discussion on some of the petition articles?
Yeah, so as I brought up last week, it's up to the board. You know, we kind of made our motions in a backwards fashion, so I don't think we need to necessarily rescind our motions. I think we could just make new motions with an indefinite postponement or a lack of support.
On which ones?
On any petition article.
That we voted?
I guess there's exception of one, I think that we supported in a positive motion, but all the
Okay.
others, we created a negative motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
With Select Board Member Pekarsky's indulgence, if it's possible, we also did promise Mark Drainville that we wouldn't keep him here till 10 o'clock last week. So if we could skip over the re-votes on the warrant and go to presentations to get both gentlemen out of here and home to
Please.
bed.
Good point.
I wanted them after the consent agenda, Mike, but
I know Jeff has been difficult this week.
Hey, let's start with
Only at the top.
Mark Drainville. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
All right, thank you.
And I'm going to turn this over to you, Don, because I think you asked for him to be here.
Yeah.
I have no idea why he's
that's-
here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you basically, you've heard the discussion earlier this evening, you know what happened before, in the previous meeting. All I was interested in knowing, in a combination of you and the town administrator, is what are we in for right now? And based on today's dollars, because you and I both know that when we're building this thing in 10 years on some of the other phases, that in constant dollars, it isn't going to be this amount. But what the remaining amount would cost and what the total indebtedness is going to wind up being, because as I said previously, there is a period of time, and I think Martha mentioned this too, there is a period of time, these things aren't coming off like the normal capital plan. Some things come off, some things come on, and the idea is to try to create a flat line so that people know what their expectations are to pay their taxes each year. That's not happening because these are not a betterment for each area. It actually raises our taxes, and each of these projects is additive. So I have a great interest in making sure that the public actually knows, you know, what they've already experienced on their tax bill. There is at least a bunch of money that hasn't happened yet on the tax rate. And then there's proposals, obviously, for like 3A and for the rest of the plan to get you out to Phase 8. So those are all the components that I'm interested in, some of which you may not be able to answer, but I mean, those are the questions, because the total burden to each individual taxpayer on their tax rate can't be figured out unless you can come up with that number.
Right.
And when that occurs.
So, so I think I have what you're asking for, so let me, it's a brief presentation, just allow me so this is so when I was here last week, I talked about kind of where you've been and what the status of the progress is on the plan. And now what I have is looking forward. It's not 100% complete, but I think it'll touch on what you're looking for, at least mostly. So last week I mentioned, as you know, you have 5 watersheds in town. You spend time in the Pleasant Bay. We need to focus on the other 4 next, and I'm going to talk about nitrogen compliance in those 4 watersheds. So I'm not going to talk about anything that's been completed, that is in construction or in design. So I'm going to focus on the west side of town today. So, and this is brief. We will be coming back to give a more robust, comprehensive plan update presentation, but this is a kind of a progress report. So, I mentioned last week that changes to Title V, as you know, have changed the game a little bit as far as putting a time frame on this work. So you are required to put in a watershed permit application by the year 2030, and then that sets the clock on a 20-year period of time to come into compliance with 75% of your nitrogen TMDLs on the west side of town. So that sets a deadline of the year 2050, quite a ways out, but still that sets a deadline of sorts. So I'm going to talk through the phasing. So this is only looking at the west side of town. So what we did is we picked up on Phase 4, because you've had 3 here. So this picks up with Phase 4 and works the way backwards, works our way to the east, but this kind of creates a spine or a backbone to be able to collect flow from the more central part of town, okay? And we've broken this out. You're gonna need through Phase 8 here in order to approach the 75% in all of the watersheds there. We could peel a little bit off of all of these, but generally you have to come 75% or more. So that's what this plan does, okay? And these are the costs for sewering for Phases 4 through 8. So it totals $267 million. These are in 2024 dollars, and we can talk about how that changes, but I like to keep these in a consistent year. The one thing that's not included in this is the cost of treatment and recharge. That's the next thing that has to be tackled. But this is a $250 million plus sewering endeavor. So this would be in the next 20 years. There would be one additional phase of sewering that's required after that I didn't include in this, but this is for the next 20 years, okay?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
And just to clarify, that 267 million is based on numbers from when we developed the CWMP, not today's numbers.
No, these are actually today's.
So this
These are in
includes
20, we've
inflation.
updated, yeah, this is an update. These are $2024.
Okay.
Yes, they're $2024.
Thank
Yep,
you.
yep.
Don?
Just to interject, but nonetheless, it doesn't include the first three phases, which we already know what they costed,
Does
so
not.
we have blown past the 300 million number.
Yes. Yep.
And while this slide is up, which one of these includes the wastewater treatment facility?
So that would be the first line that we don't have yet.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is just sewering costs right now. so,
Thank you.
okay.
Which means it's well over 300.
Way
It will be, yep. I will say that inflation in the construction industry, that's what's impacting this. In general, for years, it would go up around 3.7% or so. That was a pretty reliable number. It went up quite a bit after COVID. So, that's impacted a lot of these costs, so.
Thank you.
Well, and we're competing against ourselves, trying to get the same contractors to bid on these jobs. And the only other variable, of course, I understand the projections need to be there, but we have no idea, what's in store for the national economy and what impacts that could have as far as increasing or decreasing those numbers.
The only other thing, I mentioned this last week, is this is just the task before you for the west side of town, just finding a recharge site and treatment. Those are the next things that need to happen before any soaring can happen, so. But I wanted to make this brief, but I hope that answers your question.
It does to the extent that you have what you have, but like I said, the town administrator has to weigh in too on two other components. What we've spent that's already been borrowed, what we've approved but has not been borrowed, and whether the timelines of those things are. Because there's an awful lot of people out there who were just stunned when they got their tax bill this January, and that they still haven't seen everything we've approved. And you don't necessarily have that number, but we do. Before they go off and, I'm definitely in favor of an educated vote in town meeting. While I really was encouraging us to have the discussion at Great Sand Lakes, everybody needs to know what they're already in for, what they've already agreed to build, and that we've nonetheless not started sending out tax bills for. So, yeah. I have one technical question because you're in front of us now, and it's been gnawing at me because they have had in Chatham's Wells some evidence of PFAS. I mean, there is no way that I can understand where our effluent flow goes there and it's kept separate, so if we bring back water, the recharge, we're assured that it's only that which came from us. And, so anything that's part of one party's system is owned by everybody eventually, right?
Yeah, your flow is all mixed. What you would get back would just be an amount of flow.
Yeah, but I guess my point is that the nature of the treated water is not necessarily the same as what was sent out untreated, in terms of elements like PFAS.
I'm sorry, could you ask me that again?
Yeah, we have not shown any evidence of PFAS in our system here. There has been some of that going on in Chatham.
Okay.
But again, just to put it right out there, the water comes in maybe from different pipes, but when it gets treated, it's all the same water, and it all gets dispersed back out as recharge.
It does. I don't know that.
They don't treat for PFAS. I know they don't.
They don't, and I don't know that what they're finding, the PFAS they're finding necessarily comes from the plant, though. I don't know that that's the case. I'm not sure if that's part of what you were.
No, but this is the same case as everything else. It's an emerging threat. All you can really say is they're not finding a lot of evidence now, but you don't know what you don't know if you're not testing for it. That's all. I really wanted to make a point, as long as you're here technically.
Okay.
That's not an erroneous statement.
So there is PFAS in just about everything. They're finding it in the most remote parts of the earth. And On occasion, they're gonna find it in water systems. It's everywhere, you know, so what they're finding in Chatham, I don't know the source, you know, I don't know where it's coming from, you know, so it's hard for me to say.
At least I know I can account for what my mental lapses are. It's the size of a credit card from what I gather.
Moving right along.
Yes. That's all I had for tonight. I just wanted to,
Excellent. Anybody from the board?
No, just thank you. Thanks for hanging in here.
Thanks,
too.
thanks for coming back.
all right,
But
thank you for.
I would like to make mention of the fact that when Joe comes back, that he's got part two of the answer that wasn't able to be dealt with here.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you, taking all my phone calls on Saturdays and after 5:30 at night. You're an all-star. Thank you.
Problem. All right, thank you all.
Feel free to ignore those calls, by the way.
It's fine, I'll just start calling Pete.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
while VHB sets up, could
Yes.
could I make a motion to accept the 2025 annual town elections warrants as presented?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Emily's.
You didn't even ask that. I know you did.
The item before you tonight is not quite ready to be accepted. That conversation, you'll notice in your packet, there's also a citizen petition for a ballot question. So I'll ask you to consider that before, and potentially vote to place. And then you're actually gonna have to place your ballot questions associated with Articles 19 and 20 from tonight as well, pending your future conversation. So you could have been ready to close, but I don't think we're quite there yet. It's likely gonna be a next week closure, but I would encourage you to consider the petition this evening, and I know the lead petitioner is here, so I don't know if you want to do that immediately or wait for the...
Okay, with that, I remove my motion if the second gets removed.
It's done.
We have the removal.
All right.
Thank you.
This gentleman has also been very patient.
Yes, thanks for being here.
No problem. Thank you, everybody.
You know, it's being caught in traffic.
The most important stuff it's everyone's here for tonight, right? Thank you, members of the board, for having me. My name is Matthew Duranlo. I'm a senior project engineer with VHB. A couple months ago, I think in January, I was here to talk about the North Harwich traffic study, and tonight I'm going to talk about the Harwich Port Corridor study, so the second part of that. Okay, so I have about 15 slides tonight, so hopefully won't take too long. But before I get into it, just wanted to talk about the scope of what our project was scoped to do and what we were tasked to do when we started this. So our scope was to kind of do a holistic review of existing roadway conditions, looking at roadway geometry, intersection geometry, traffic volumes, and traffic operations in the Harwich Port area. We also did a review of safety and pedestrian infrastructure. Then we did a look at the future conditions, seeing what traffic volumes are going to be in the future and operations. And then from there, we looked at some potential improvement alternatives. And I'll touch upon each of these tonight. So just to orient everyone, for our study, we're focused on the stretch of Main Street in Harwich Port, roughly from Sisson Road in the west to Gorham Road in the east. That's roughly about 2 miles of roadway was the focus of our study area. We had 8 intersections included in our study area, shown then on the map. So it's Sisson Road, Lower County Road, South Street, C Street, Schoolhouse Road, which is the entrance to the municipal parking lot, Bank Street, Freeman Street, and Gorham Road. And then, so we started off the study. We got traffic counts in October of 2024, about mid-October. Shown on the screen are the daily traffic volumes that we collected in October of 2024. So in the top numbers, the non-parentheses, are the daily weekday volumes. So that's about 6,000 to 9,000 cars on Main Street daily, with the highest volume in the center of the village, just east of South Street. On Saturday, those volumes are slightly higher. So that's about 7,000 to 10,000 vehicles, with the same trend, with the volume slightly highest in the center of the village. We also collected turning movement counts at each of those 8 intersections that we used for our operational analyses that I'll get to in a minute. I know, obviously, this is a very seasonal area, so collecting counts in October is not the peak June, July, August season. So we reviewed seasonal adjustment factors and adjusted the turning movement volumes up when we did our operational analyses. Touching upon the safety review we did, So we took a look at the MassDOT crash portal for crashes for the most recent 5 years at each of those 8 intersections. And from there, we looked at the number of vehicles entering each intersection to develop crash rates. So that's the number of crashes per million entering vehicles. We then compared those to the district average crash rates for MassDOT District 5. And you can see of the 8 intersections, 3 of them are above the district average. So that's Main Street at Sisson Road, Main Street at Bank Street, and then Main Street at Freeman Street and Snow Inn Road. That last intersection has the highest crash rate, 1.32, which is about double of the district average. And also we noted that that intersection is a high crash location reported by the state, which means in the top 5% of crashes statewide. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the pedestrian curb ramp inventory we did. So back in December, we had a couple of our engineers go down to Harwich Port and we did some measurements of all of the curb ramps. So we measured the accessibility measurements of 39 curb ramps from Sisson Road to Bank Street. We didn't do anything east of Bank Street up to Gorham Road because we know that that is a MassDOT project that I believe is starting construction either very soon or has already started construction. So that we didn't focus any of our pedestrian improvements or any of our existing pedestrian review on that since we know that it's about to be improved and made better. So what we did when we did the curb ramp accessibility is we measured different elements of accessibility. We measured the slope of the curb ramp itself. We measured the landing width, which is the area at the top of the curb ramp, if there's an adequate width. We also measured the cross slope of the landing area at the top. And then we also noted the width of the curb ramp. To be ADA compliant, you need to be at least 4 feet wide. MassDOT recommends a little bit wider. They recommend 5 feet wide to be compliant for MassDOT. And then we also did a visual inspection to see if there's tactile warning strips, the detective strips. So of our review of the 39 curb ramps, we found that 11 were fully compliant, meeting everything, all ADA accessibility. And then of those, 8 of those 11 meet that additional foot width for the MassDOT to be fully compliant. So of reasons they didn't comply, most of them, it was either that the slope of the ramp was slightly steeper than what ADA considers to be compliant, or the landing area, either the top landing area, either had a cross slope that was slightly steeper than what ADA considers to be compliant, or it wasn't wide enough. Only one of the ramps on the eastern side, where the sidewalk on the north side kind of ends between Lower County Road and Sisson Road, didn't meet the width requirement, but all the other ones met the width requirement for ADA compliant. So then from there, we took a look at the intersection capacity analyses. So we looked at the existing condition volumes, like I said, that we collected in October and then adjusted up for the peak season. And for those, we looked at the weekday morning peak hour, the weekday evening peak hour, and the Saturday midday peak hour. We looked at it from the existing conditions and then also future conditions. We projected the traffic volumes 7 years into the future, taking into account traffic growth, but general traffic growth on the roadway network and traffic growth from development projects. So on the graphic here, there's two letters at each of the intersections. The letter on the left is the existing level of service, and on the right is the future. And level of service is kind of a grade us traffic engineers use to analyze traffic operations, with A being the best, F being the worst. So in the morning, conditions are pretty good, which aligns with what we saw with volumes are generally the lowest in the morning of the 3 peak hours. Looking at the weekday evening, conditions generally are a little bit worse than in the morning. Up at Sisson Road, you're seeing that's an LOS-F under existing and future, so you're seeing longer delays, longer queues. Then when we get to Saturday midday, that's when we have the worst operations throughout here. So you can see 3 of the 8 intersections are at an F, another 2 of them are at an E. And as everyone knows, these are all unsignalized intersections through here. So what the measure of effectiveness is measuring is coming out of the side streets, coming out of the stop-controlled approaches. So now that we collected and did all this data and did our holistic review of the existing and future conditions, we started looking at some possible potential improvement alternatives. So the way we were scoped to do this and the way we kind of approached this, we kind of decided to come up with a menu of different options. And we didn't evaluate like the merits of each of them. We didn't want to say like, this is the number one thing the town 100% should do. We kind of wanted just to lay out different possibilities that could be done, ranging the gambit, looking at safety, pedestrian accommodations, bicycle accommodations. First thing that, again, everyone probably knows about this is that the corridor is quite constrained, especially right in the village center. The buildings are right up against the back of the sidewalk. The sidewalk is right up against the edge of the travelway. So there's not a lot of possibilities to, add like a shared use path or dedicated bicycle facilities without really infecting the right of way. So we took that constraint into consideration for our alternatives, knowing what the built environment is like today. And then we looked, our improvements are categorized as corridor-wide and intersection-specific. So I'm gonna go through a few of these, kind of touch upon some potential improvements that we identified. First, looking at pedestrians, we noticed that, what we observed in the village center is there's very strong pedestrian accommodations. There's sidewalks on both sides, there's a lot of crosswalks, but as soon as you get out of the village center, there's not a lot of accommodations. The area to the east going up to Gorham Road, like I said, is part of that improvement project, so we haven't focused many improvements on that. But to the west, heading up to Sisson Road, the sidewalk on the south side of Main Street ends right at Lower County Road. On the north side, the sidewalk goes roughly about halfway up, and then it also ends. So a potential improvement could be to extend the sidewalk either on the north side or on both sides all the way up to at least Sisson Road to connect Harwich Port to people walking towards West Harwich or towards Sisson Road. So that would be a good potential improvement. Other corridor-wide potential pedestrian improvements could be to ensure accessibility at the crosswalk ramps, expanding upon what I touched upon earlier about the cross slopes and making sure everything is ADA accessible. And then we looked at ways to improve pedestrian safety. So some possible ways to do that are to have enhanced signage, kind of like the example shown on the bottom left, like a crosswalk warning sign at all the intersections. Crosswalk ahead signs are options, and then there's also more robust options such as rapid rectangular flashing beacons, which I'm sure you guys have seen around, where a pedestrian comes and pushes the button and the light flashes kind of to alert drivers that the pedestrian's trying to cross. Or we could even potentially look at raised crossings in the village center, which would slow down cars and also emphasize pedestrian right of way. But that would need to be coordinated with MassDOT, as it is MassDOT Route 28. Looking at potential bicycle improvements, again, as I noted, the corridor is pretty constrained right in the village center, so there's not a lot of options to add wide bike lanes or anything. So potential options are a little more limited. In the village center, we could look at doing shared lane markings, similar to like they did on Route 28 in Dennisport recently. And then outside of the village center, we could evaluate the feasibility of seeing if there's room for on-road bike lanes or a shared use path along Main Street. Another potential option could be to look at designating a parallel street with lower traffic volume as a neighborhood bikeway. That would kind of encourage through bicyclists not to use Route 28 and kind of minimize that conflict. Pros and cons to that approach, because cons, if people are trying to get someplace on Main Street, they're off Main Street, but it's an option that the town could look at. I got a couple more. We looked at some potential village center improvements. There's kind of ways to enhance the village center from a transportation infrastructure perspective. One of those ways could be to review crosswalk locations, make sure that other crosswalks directly align with desire lines. We could do like a study in the summer to kind of watch where people are walking and see if their crosswalks do directly align with where people want to go, or if people are kind of crossing at other spots because it doesn't directly align with where they're trying to get to. Also could look at creating a centralized bus stop for passengers riding the CCRTA bus. You could have like a transit hub or a bus shelter with a covered waiting area with information posted. Other potential options could be improved wayfinding signage or streetlights, post-mounted streetlights for pedestrian lighting. I've got a couple more slides. Moving on to potential intersection improvements. So we looked at some of the specific intersections. And again, we focused mostly on the emphasis of safety, and accessibility for all. So some of the potential ways to improve safety could be to have LED stop signs or stop ahead signs, like the example on the bottom left. That could help emphasize for drivers that they need to stop ahead. We noticed when we did a safety review of the most prevalent crash type are angled crashes, which data shows generally could be impacted by people stopping or not stopping, I guess more accurately. Another potential improvement could be to evaluate the impact of hedges and fencing and signage on sight distance, especially at the intersection of Snow in Road and Main Street. And then another potential thing that could be done is to consider hatching or pavement markings to reduce the pedestrian crossing distance, especially for intersections that have a wide skew or a skewed intersection that have wide crossing distances, like at Bank Street and at Gorham Road. And a potential of that is, or an example of that is right out front of Town Hall here, where you can see like the red pavement marking to kind of designate where the pedestrians go and where the vehicles go, but you're not changing the curb line, so trucks are still able to turn. At a couple of the intersections, we decided to take a deeper look to see geometrically what could fit. So at Main Street at Sisson Road, we wanted to see if what the feasibility of a roundabout. So I'm gonna preface this by saying this is not an endorsement, not a we're not suggesting this, but mainly we wanted to sketch this out just to see could a roundabout fit at the Main Street at Sisson Road intersection. Operationally, a roundabout we did the analysis and it would seem to work pretty well. It would accommodate all the movements, but there definitely would be some right-of-way impacts on all three of the quadrants. You can see this, what we sketched out was a one-lane roundabout that would accommodate a WB67, it's a fairly big truck, with shared use paths on all sides, on all three approaches. And you can see that in order to get the roundabout with the right radii and the right deflections and the shared use paths, you'd be expanding beyond the right-of-way on all three parcels into those parking lots. Just to have that noted. And then we also took a look at the Main Street at Lower County Road, if there's any potential improvements we could do there. We know coming off Lower County Road, you're at this very skewed angle. If you're trying to turn onto Main Street, you have to turn your head like all the way back. So trying to see if there's any potential improvements there. One possibility, again, not that we're endorsing, but one possibility could be to close that block of Lower County Road and have all cars turn onto Post Office Square to access Route 28. And so that would make it so everyone is kind of entering more at a T intersection. And then it would also allow for possibilities to expand the park or have more like events or something in that space. So there's a lot of information. I said tonight, there's even more information in the report. So obviously everyone should take time and digest, and I'll be available to answer questions, but some possible next steps going forward after we have a chance to digest and discuss could be to evaluate which of these alternatives should be advanced forward, if there's any ones here that we think should move along. Conduct outreach to local residents and business owners to help decide which alternative should advance forward. Also coordinate with MassDOT, since it's a MassDOT state Route 28, and other potential stakeholders. And then for some of those potential intersection improvements, like the ones I just showed, conduct further evaluation and design, since this is just a preliminary concepts we had done. And with that, I will open it for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, and I'll open it up to the board. Julie?
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for the report. And I'm just wondering, and I know it's late, I don't want to keep you here a lot longer, but based on the recommendations and traffic safety, Linda's here, and we talked about a stakeholder kind of meeting, and at least it's only March, but at the same token, it's March. So I'm wondering how quickly you think we could get the light up stop signs, or what is the undertaking to get Mass DOT to let us put in, at least right in the center of town, the light up sidewalks? Because I imagine the lighting is going to take us longer to improve, but these are things that at least at nighttime in Harwichport would at least lend some safety. But I don't know the timeline on DOT letting us, even if we were to pay for them.
Yeah, I can't speak to all of that. For the light-up stop signs, I think since those would be on the side streets, those would be under town roadways, I believe. Not
Yeah.
to speak on behalf of the DPW department, but that probably would be up to DPW on what their availability is and their budget for signage. And at least the example we had for the LED sign in here, it was a solar-powered one. So if that is the route we went, or the route the town went, it wouldn't need to connect to any other power sources. For the ones on Route 28, like the RFB for the pedestrians, that one would have some more lead time with MassDOT, because they would want to review any design and make sure it's like designed properly. And again, the crosswalks, ramps are all appropriately designed. So that one would probably have at least a couple month lead item, like a design lead through MassDOT before construction could start.
Okay, because I'm just looking at ways that we could at least try to improve. I mean, and all of these are great ideas, but like you say, they're going to take us a little longer, but for more immediacy for the summer months, because I find it incredibly dangerous down there at nighttime. You know, it's one thing when you're just walking along the sidewalk, but trying to cross the street where people can't really see you, it's difficult, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Julie. Anybody else? Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, this is no offense to you, but I mean, I guess I was hoping for a magic bullet of some sort, but the reality is, I mean, I used to be a driver's ed instructor. There's 13 crosswalks, real crosswalks, from basically the harbor to the Dairy Queen. And by God, somehow we managed to have at least 40 informal crosswalks. So it's not just the behavior of the cars I'm worried about. It's just people just randomly go across. And I get the signs and I get the other things, but that would presuppose that people would be compliant with, you know, going to the spot that has the lighted crossway. I have nowhere near the faith in mankind that you seem to have. I'm just disappointed because, especially at night, we have successfully rejuvenated a middle of town that was pretty much dormant 30 years ago. And we have, I mean, it is what it is. We have the major parking lot across the street from a whole slew of eating and drinking establishments. So we have yet to be able to address how to safely get those people, I mean, because there's no place in this discussion at all about an Uber pickup area or anything that could ameliorate some of the problems. I'm just really concerned because statistically, my belief structure is never confuse luck for skill. Just because we're not getting a lot of accidents right now, it doesn't necessarily mean we've been skillful at avoiding them. It just means we haven't. And we've avoided a bunch of problems through the years, but it's only getting worse. And I'm just like grasping at straws to try to find something that would help at least one part of this, because it's just a hot mess right now. And again, I don't see anything in this plan that actually can address the safety of pedestrians being able to get onto the street at 1 a.m. in the morning and cross into a parking lot on Route 28, because, hell, we can't even get people to go 25 miles an hour in front of Town Hall. And there's all kinds of signs. We put the lighted sign up that said it was 25, you're entering a low-speed limit area. And it's maddening. I see people go down 39 doing, I don't know, about 32 miles an hour on the major part of the street. And then as soon as they get to the center of town, when they should be slowing down to 25, they still keep doing around 35 miles an hour because that's what they're doing. And nothing that you've suggested actually addresses that in my mind.
No, that's fair. I agree. I always wish there was a silver bullet to just like solve all the issues, but especially when you're dealing with like human behavior and human drivers, it's impossible to get everyone to align with one thing. So the best we can do is come up with kind of a menu of options, and hopefully some of them work, which is not what you want to hear, but that's our experience.
Well, I'm tired of Dawn bashing my driving skills. But, I appreciate you being here tonight. And you're right, there's so many limitations on what we can and can't do that you couldn't possibly present us with the silver bullet. You know, we could install a pedestrian bridge, right? And people still wouldn't use it. So it does come to human behavior. We could ask the police department to go down there and ticket everybody who's jaywalking. But again, human behavior is human behavior. We can only control it so much. And is it an important area that we should continue to focus on and make improvements? Without a doubt. Do we have a variety of other roadways that need similar improvements? Without a doubt.
Thank you, Pete. Michael?
I'd just like Select Board Member Pekarsky to expand on the human behavior, his human behavior thoughts. No, without that. Thank you for being here. We are, I think we're one step closer, and thank you for bringing this forward. I'll have a bunch of questions, but I will email them through the chair. And I do think there are some silver bullets. I think lighting, as you mentioned, is one of the major things. I would love to see what they have in Barnstable Village, those speed humps. When I hit the first one, I swear I'm all the way off the ground, and then I go slow the rest of the way. They work. So I would ask that we bring.
You know
this
how
back.
fast you have to be going to be lifted off the ground.
Surprised you felt comfortable saying that out loud.
I would ask, well, Pete can't take all the beatings.
No, that's a good point.
I would ask that we bring this back sooner than later, and I would just make note of several residents reached out today and want to be part of the process as stakeholders. Dennis Miller was one that sent a nice note today, and he's presented to us before, and he owns a few of the properties on this street. So I would ask that we bring this back after we're done with the town meeting warrant and budget and have a further conversation on it. Thanks again, and thanks for being patient.
Thank you.
We have our Chair of Traffic Safety here.
Howdy. Linda Sabula. Just a couple of things. One is, you're absolutely right, it's human behavior. And the only way you change human behavior is giving tickets. Because I could probably, I'll bet all the money in my wallet, that if we just, our police, like Michael's getting excited. If we had our police give out 20 speeding tickets over the course of 2 weeks, that would go through this town like wildfire, because we gossip terribly, and people would slow down. That there really is, if you want to change human behavior, it's not the signs. Because there's one, Bank Street, there are 5 signs in the course of about 5 houses telling you, danger, intersection coming, intersection coming, intersection coming, and people still blow through it. How many more signs can we have? So there's also, I think that while this focused on the Route 28 corridor, the Traffic Safety Committee hears a lot of complaints about the parking and the traffic that has moved to the other streets. People are going on, the streets that parallel. The issues that this didn't address, which is the parking in Harwich Port. That on a great night where we have 150 gabillion people at the Wednesday night music in the port, where are all those cars? They're all parked on Miles, Pleasant, down Cross Street, and people are getting annoyed with that. So there's a whole bunch of other things in here that aren't just a crosswalk. I also want to just say that after listening to our DPW people and our MassDOT people, Department of Transportation, there's a process to get anything done on Route 28, which includes the sidewalks, putting up lights, putting up signs. It's not just hey, we're going to do this, and they say, sure. They have a process. You make an application, you have to have your plans, and then they will assess whether or not it's appropriate. Because we've been trying to get some work done at the depot, Uncle Vini's, Route 28. That's a horrible intersection. And I think Lincoln Hooper has asked for 4 times, in my knowledge, of having MassDOT look at that intersection, each with the idea of a crosswalk. Each time they say no, because of the way the road curves one side, there's a hill up the other side, and they say it doesn't fit the line of sight issues. And now I'm at the end of my knowledge here. So I'm sure you know more about this than I do. But there are places where it is going to be very difficult to change line of sight. As a community, we have not been particularly aggressive about cutting back branches, cutting back bushes. So we have many places in town, and that Snow Inn Road is one of them. I mean, I think that the town did a great job and we got a bunch of stuff cut back. And I'm gonna be interested to see once we get that sidewalk put in between there and the harbor, because I can see what they've dug up, and it's real close, and they've cut back branches. So as soon as those bushes start growing back over, who's gonna manage that? The town has not been aggressive, or maybe not aggressive, strict about line of sight, cutting back bushes. My husband and I walk on Bank Street all the time, and there's a couple of houses where what is a perfectly adequate 5-foot sidewalk is now 3 feet because the bushes are all taken over. I mean, if a branch is hitting me in the head, I'm not that tall. It's too low. But we do nothing in this town about that. We don't want to stress our residents, and yet we're going to spend all this money putting in sidewalks so the bushes can grow back over them. I mean, some of this stuff, there's stuff that we can do that isn't going to cost any money. And it is enforcement, police enforcement.
Don's going to donate a pair of clippers for you and Bob for your walks.
Oh, you wouldn't want me out there because people would find their bushes decimated to the ground. There was a community north of Boston that if your bushes were going over the sidewalk, you would get a note, you get a letter from the town, bushes are spreading over, cut them back. If they didn't get cut back, I think you got a couple of warnings. And then what would happen is they'd go out with the butcher shears, and those things would be cut back down to a twig. And it didn't take more than that happening a few times where people started saying, maybe I should cut my bushes back. So the Traffic Safety Committee, if that's your pleasure, we're certainly happy to take a look at this and see what we can recommend. We're happy to do that, if you'd like to do that.
Thank you, Linda.
And thanks for recommending me, Michael.
I'm good with your money.
So I like the idea of stakeholder meeting maybe after town meeting, or in between when we clear things up and town meeting. I think there's some low-hanging fruit, but I also think there's some bigger things that we need to take a look at, so. Anybody else on the board have anything?
No, just to follow up on Linda's point, we got to forward this to traffic safety to review?
Forward this? Yeah, sure.
And for the public, it's on the website.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick note, I did send some questions related to your last traffic study through the chair. Those still are unanswered, so maybe Jeff will follow up with you, or the administrator will follow up with you, related to Queen Anne Road.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Jeff isn't finding out where we left off.
Emily, thank you. I heard that, Michael.
Good evening again, still Emily Mitchell, Town Clerk. So you do have a topic tonight to consider your annual town election warrant. Right now that includes the 7 offices I described during public comment and 2 ballot questions. So one to approve the charter amendments that were passed at the 2024 annual town meeting. So voting on them at the ballot will kind of conclude the approval process for those. The second ballot question is to whether or not the town wishes to create an elected charter commission, and that question was driven by petition. Before you close out your warrant, I'll be looking to you to indicate whether the debt exclusion articles associated potentially with the fire equipment and with the Great Sand Lake sewering, whether those will be proceeding and you would like the associated ballot questions placed on the warrant. And then tonight the conversation was largely driven by a citizen petition to place a non-binding public policy advisory question on this warrant. So state law does allow voters to petition the select board to have ballot questions placed on the warrant. They are specifically non-binding public policy questions, so they are designed to get voter input on a topic, but a yes or no vote doesn't have any particular legal effect. The process for petitioning a ballot question is similar but different in some meaningful ways from the petitioning process for a town meeting article. So in this case, a petitioner collects 10 signatures from registered Harwich voters, submits that to you, and then you consider whether you want to place that on your warrant. Unlike a town meeting petitioned article, you're not compelled to place it. So you're invited to place it. I will ask you tonight to make that decision if you're willing. If you decline to place it, there's then a mechanism for the proponents to go gather additional signatures. The number is 10% of registered Harwich voters, so we're looking in the realm of 1,200. So they could then compel the placement of the question. But at this stage, a petition is before you that was filed last Thursday, March 20th, with proposed ballot question language. The lead petitioner, Diane Turco, is here tonight if you wish to hear from her. So that's kind of the outline of the process for a petition for a non-binding public policy advisory question. And I'll leave it to you to decide how you wish to proceed.
Well, Diane, after everything you've gone through tonight, it would be awful if we didn't hear from you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You related to Tom?
Yes.
Okay.
I am. You know Tom?
Wonderful guy.
Good coach, huh?
Absolutely,
Good
the
guy.
best.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm Diane Turco. I live in Harwich, and I'm director of Cape Town Winders. We've been working on the pilgrim issues for, decades now. But this is a non-binding public advisory question that is based on a state statute that provides citizens an opportunity to express their opinion on issues of concern. We've done this in the past. It's been very successful. It's already on the ballot in Plymouth, the town of Plymouth, Eastham, Dennis, Yarmouth, Wellfleet, and Mashpee so far, and all the other towns are considering this ballot question. We're hoping to get it on every town on Cape Cod so that we can get this message out to our state government to enforce state laws, to prohibit Holtec International from evaporating radioactive contaminated wastewater into our air, and it's illegal. I don't know if you want me to say a little bit about that. I know it's late.
It's the board's pleasure.
I've heard this many times. You've been before, so thank you. I don't need to hear any more before we move to place or.
I don't either.
Yeah, I think we have enough information from past, from the past. So does someone want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I move, let me name it properly. I move that we place the non-binding public advisory question regarding the Holtec Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station in Plymouth and discharging untreated radio-contaminated industrial water into the atmosphere. Is that adequate?
Say that again?
No.
Second. We have a motion and a second.
That was on the 2025 annual town.
On the 2025 annual, yes. Any discussion? Don?
I'll say what I said back when Diane first came here. It's almost insulting to hear somebody talk about, well, it's not as much radioactivity as this could be, because as a father, I'm not willing to have any kid get exposed to radiation that wasn't there naturally.
Absolutely.
So moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was good to see you. Thank you for all your work as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Michael?
just to go back a little bit to the draft 2025 annual town meeting warrant, you did share with the public, and I think the way I took it is you didn't get a request from any board member to put any of the enhancement of services forward, so we never had the conversation again. And I just wanted to at least explain, for me, it wasn't something that I took lightly, having the department heads come before us and express their needs and wants. It really, and I think anyone that sat through the school conversation and our budget conversation can understand why. So it wasn't something that was just dismissed, and I certainly echo your comments about appreciating the town staff and the people that brought this forward, and a previous speaker, his endorsement of some of them and what the benefits to the public would be. But I certainly made no request of you to have further conversation of that. I just don't want the department heads to feel like they were dismissed, or the public to think we didn't think about it. So the bottom line is, I don't believe we have the money. And bringing stuff forward when we're in union negotiations and trying to give our employees what we can and get the supplies and everything else we need to operate this town, now's not the time, in my opinion.
Well put, and thank you for your narrative, Michael. On to new business.
I'm sick of stealing Pete's work tonight.
Look to my left.
You're
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the following 2025 seasonal on-premise liquor license renewals. Number 1, AJG Corp. DBA The Weather Deck Restaurant, 168 Route 28. Number 2, the Belmont Condominium Beach Club Corp. DBA The Beach, 1 Belmont Road. Number 3, 554 Street Bar LLC, DBA Three Monkeys, 554 Route 28. Number 4, Mount Group LLC, DBA Mad Minnow Bar and Kitchen, 554 Route 28.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Don?
Yes, and that motion did including any other previous restrictions that have been placed on those licenses,
That's
correct?
definitely part of my second.
That's what I thought.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0 for those 4.
Mr. Chair, I approve, I'm sorry, I move to approve.
That streamlines
Yeah,
things.
Exactly. I move to approve the following 2025 lodging house license renewals. Stacia M. Kostecki, DBA Gingerbread House, 141 Division Street.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. 5-0.
Item C, approve the following 2025 amusement license renewals with any pre-existing conditions. Number 1, AJG Corp. DBA Harbor Glen Mini Golf, 168 Route 28. Number 2, Bud's Miniature Golf, 9 Sisson Road. Number 3, Grand Slam Entertainment, Inc., 322 Route 28. Number 4, Trampoline Center, Inc., DBA Trampoline Center, 296 Route 28.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on those 4? All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chair,
5-0, please.
before we get into the seasonal entertainment, says this is an often debated subject. Before we make a motion that's on the current agenda, I know a table was put before us tonight on what last year's entertainment licenses are, and there always does seem to be conversation about expansion in area, geographic area. And I'll leave it at that, so I think more appropriate to have a conversation now than a motion.
Okay.
And really, the only one on the first one, not the only one on the first one, Port Restaurant, Harwich Port, looks like they've also applied on the outdoor Sunday, weekday and Sundays, live recorded music with amplification. We have held them to acoustic based on past experiences down there and their proximity to neighbors and complaints. We have not voted, in years at least, to have amplification. That's my only comment on that one.
Singing my song.
Any more discussion before a motion?
Don's really good at making those motions.
Oh, no, you don't. Do we have the matrix showing, what's it? No, showing what they had last year? This one. Okay.
It's tucked in under there probably for you. But you know what, Don? They did a carve-out on the big paper there.
How do you like to sign these one at a time, or do you want to take one?
Feel free.
Acoustic, obviously, that's the only change.
The only change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
move
acoustic.
that we approve the following 2025 seasonal entertainment license renewal, the Port Restaurant and Bar, Inc., 5431 Route 28, weekday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. inside, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. outside, jukebox, radio, TV, live recorded music, acoustic. Is that outside? Yeah, that's outside, right?
Yeah.
Is it outside? It doesn't say.
The first part of the memo would be inside. And
Oh, this part says outside, though. So,
Yes.
outside.
That was the 10 a.m. to 12
Jukebox,
a.m.
radio, TV, live recorded music, acoustic, it's not for amplification.
Correct.
Dancing. And then Sunday, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. inside, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. outside, jukebox, radio, TV, live recorded music, acoustic music is how I should be saying it, acoustic music, dancing. Okay, Lucky Labrador, Inc.
Whoa.
Oh, sorry, let me
Hold on,
stop
don't go
this.
anywhere.
Yeah.
You want, can you tell I want to go home?
Well, we have a motion, and do we have a second on that?
Before we, if you're ready for discussion?
Sure.
We've never had a problem with the 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. inside for, even on Sundays. Inside, we're fine with live recorded music with amplification.
Right.
Outside specifically is
It's
acoustic
only, right, acoustic, when I'm saying acoustic, it's only for the outside.
Right. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, thank you.
You're missing the elephant in the room. That license only gives them an hour.
So that is a Scrivener's error on the.
Where's that?
on
11
the,
a.m. to 12 p.m. is an hour.
Oh, yeah,
I was
yeah.
going to say that.
Yeah,
Good point.
their application is for midnight.
Yeah.
Right.
So with that revision,
Got it.
so the acoustic only applies to the outdoor entertainment.
But all the times that they're requesting are satisfactory,
Yeah, except for that mistake.
except for the mistake, changing the 12 p.m. to a.m.
Mhm.
So we have a motion.
I seconded it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 5-0.
Let me keep going.
Yeah, please.
I move that we approve the following 2025 seasonal entertainment license renewal for Lucky Labrador, Inc., doing business as Perks, 545 Route 28, weekday, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. inside, jukebox, radio, TV, live recorded music, amplification, dancing. 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. outside, jukebox, radio, TV, live recorded music, acoustic recorded music.
Actually, that one.
It's live acoustic music.
Yeah,
On
why am
Lucky
I saying
Labrador?
that? Yeah.
Lucky Labrador, yeah.
It's written like,
Where's that say?
right here, under here.
Live recorded music, amplification, dancing.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, theirs has not been specific to acoustic only.
Oh, was it?
No, that's been amplification for.
Because he only has a sound system?
He has a sound system, and based on complaints and violations, we had.
Oh, you're right, it does have amplification.
We have just never changed it.
Yep,
I'm not
okay.
proposing that we don't, but.
Right, no, let me say that again. So 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. outside, jukebox, radio, TV, live recorded music, amplification, dancing. Sunday, 1 p.m. to 12 a.m. inside, ambient music, TV, 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. inside, jukebox, radio, TV, live recorded music, amplification, dancing. 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. outside, jukebox, radio, TV, live recorded music, amplification, dancing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
5-0.
Got it?
And now, I move that we approve the following 2025 seasonal common victualers license renewals. AJG Corp., doing business as Weather Deck Restaurant, 168 Route 28. 2, The Port Restaurant and Bar, Inc., 541 Route 28. 3, Lucky Labrador, Inc., DBA Parks, 545 Route 28.
Second.
Moved and seconded for those three. Any discussion?
Only to make the comment I make every year, it's Vittler.
Bitler, sorry.
Okay.
That is a comment you make every year.
Moved and seconded with Don's comment. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
I move that we vote to approve a special permit application for a one-day wines and malt permit for Kim Gagney, event to be held on June 6, 2025, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at 204 Sisson Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 5-0.
That is correct. They're just listed in a different order.
Megan, contracts, please.
Okay, you have two contracts. The
Mr. Chair?
first,
Yes?
I move that we vote to accept Harwich Green Communities grant agreement in the amount of $135,388 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Other than Mike will be a little quicker next time. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve a contract with Markings, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $95,000 for road markings
Second.
as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Town administrators report.
I have 0.
Select board member report. Pete?
Got me digging through. So I have one thing I'd like to spend an hour on, but I'll give you 2 minutes. You know, I know election season's coming up, which typically leads to a lot of signs around town, which I think are wonderful. But what I've noticed lately is a lot of signs popping up on corners, whether they're on telephone poles or whatnot, And I just would like to make sure the town administration team knows they have our support to have their teams take care of those signs appropriately.
Call them orphan signs.
Thank you. Don?
Seems like just yesterday I left the last meeting. Nothing to say.
Julie?
Nothing.
Michael?
All time.
Motion to adjourn,
So
somebody?
moved.
Second.
Wait a minute. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.